Welcome back, legends, and if you're new here, welcome to the ultimate world of magical what-if fanfictions. Here, we explore alternate destinies, unstoppable power awakenings, and the darkest secrets the wizarding world never revealed. In today's video, we uncover a question that could change Harry Potter's fate forever. What if Harry Potter's true love was Hermione Granger? And hey, if you love powerful Harry Potter alternate stories, make sure to hit that subscribe button right now. Because we upload daily magical what-if videos you definitely don't want to miss. Alright, let's unlock the magic, and witness how Harry's entire destiny is rewritten. The Hogwarts Express rumbled through the Scottish countryside, its red exterior gleaming in the autumn sunlight as students chattered excitedly in their compartments. Harry Potter sat by the window, his emerald eyes watching the landscape blur past while his mind wandered to the year ahead. 5th year at Hogwarts. It should have felt exciting, but instead, a heavy weight pressed against his chest. Cedric's death still haunted his dreams, and the knowledge that Voldemort had returned made everything feel darker somehow. He barely noticed when the compartment door slid open. "There you are," Hermione Granger said, slightly breathless as she stepped inside. "I've been looking everywhere for you. Ron's already found a compartment with Dean and Seamus, but I thought you might want some quiet." Harry looked up at his best friend, really looked at her. Something was different about Hermione this year. Her bushy brown hair had been tamed into soft waves that framed her face, and her brown eyes seemed brighter, more alert than ever. She'd grown taller over the summer, and there was a confidence in the way she carried herself that hadn't been there before. "Thanks," he said quietly, gesturing to the seat across from him. "I'm not really in a social mood." Hermione settled into the seat, her expression softening with understanding. She didn't say anything at first, just reached into her bag and pulled out a book. But she didn't open it. Instead, she watched Harry with those intelligent eyes, as if trying to read the thoughts swirling in his head. "You've been having nightmares again, haven't you?" she asked gently. Harry's jaw tightened. He hated how easily Hermione could see through him. "It's nothing. It's not nothing," Hermione interrupted, her voice firm but kind. "Harry, what happened at the graveyard? What you saw, what you went through. No one expects you to just bounce back from that." "The Ministry does," Harry said bitterly. "Fudge called me a liar. He's convinced everyone that I made it all up for attention." Hermione leaned forward, her hands clasped together on her knees. "I know. And I know how frustrating that must be. But Harry, I believe you. I've always believed you. And so does Ron, and Dumbledore, and anyone else who truly knows you." Something warm flickered in Harry's chest at her words. Hermione had stood by him through everything, even when it would have been easier to doubt him. She'd believed in him when he was accused of putting his name in the Goblet of Fire, she'd supported him through the Triwizard Tournament, and now, when the entire wizarding world seemed determined to paint him as either a liar or attention seeker, she remained steadfast in her loyalty. "Thank you," Harry said quietly. "That means more than you know." Hermione smiled, and it transformed her entire face. "We're in this together. Always have been, always will be." The train journey continued, and as they talked, Harry found himself noticing things about Hermione he'd never really paid attention to before. The way she tucked a strand of hair behind her ear when she was thinking. The slight crinkle at the corner of her eyes when she laughed at one of his jokes. The passion in her voice when she discussed her plans for SPEW this year. When Ron finally found them an hour later, Harry felt an odd reluctance to have their private conversation interrupted. But Ron bounded into the compartment with his usual enthusiasm, launching into a story about Fred and George's latest prank invention. The feast that evening was as spectacular as always, but Harry couldn't shake the feeling that something fundamental had shifted. He found his gaze drifting to Hermione throughout the meal, watching as she debated some point with Neville, her face animated and full of life. "Mate, you all right?" Ron asked through a mouthful of chicken. "You've barely touched your food." "I'm fine," Harry said automatically. But he wasn't sure that was entirely true. That night in Gryffindor Tower, after everyone else had gone to bed, Harry lay awake staring at the ceiling. His thoughts kept circling back to Hermione. When had she become so captivating? He'd known her for 4 years, had spent countless hours with her, but somehow, she'd always just been Hermione. His friend. Part of the trio. But now, something had changed. The next morning at breakfast, Professor McGonagall handed out their OWL schedules. Hermione immediately began color-coding hers with magical markers, creating an elaborate study timetable that made Ron groan in dismay. "Hermione, we have months before exams," Ron protested. "Can't we at least enjoy the first week back? The OWLs are crucial for our future careers," Hermione said primly. "Starting early gives us the best chance of success." Harry found himself smiling at their familiar bickering. Some things never changed. But then Hermione caught his eye and grinned, and his heart did a strange little flip. What was wrong with him? Defense against the dark arts that afternoon proved to be a disaster. Their new teacher, Professor Dolores Umbridge, was a squat woman in pink robes who spoke in a sickeningly sweet voice that immediately set Harry's teeth on edge. She spent the entire first lesson reading from the course aims in a monotonous drone, refusing to let them practice any actual defensive spells. "Excuse me," Hermione said, her hand raised high. "But the course aims don't mention using defensive spells at all." "Using spells?" Umbridge tittered. "My dear girl, why would you need to use spells in my classroom? You'll be learning about defensive magic in a safe, risk-free environment. But how are we supposed to defend ourselves if we can't practice?" Hermione persisted. Umbridge's smile became strained. "And who, exactly, would you need to defend yourselves against?" "Oh, I don't know," Harry said, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "Maybe Lord Voldemort." The classroom went deathly silent. Umbridge's face turned an ugly shade of puce. "Detention, Mr. Potter," she said in a voice that was no longer sweet at all. "My office, 5 o'clock tomorrow. After class." Hermione caught up with Harry in the corridor. "That was brave," she said quietly. "But maybe not the smartest thing you've ever done." "She's not going to teach us anything useful," Harry said angrily. "We're in the middle of a war, and she's making us read about theory." "I know," Hermione said, and there was a fire in her eyes that Harry recognized. "Which is why we're going to have to take matters into our own hands." Over the next few weeks, Hermione proved to be a force of nature. She organized secret meetings, convinced students to sign up for illegal defense lessons, and helped Harry prepare to teach practical defensive magic to their classmates. The group, which they called Dumbledore's Army, met in the room of requirement twice a week. Harry discovered that he was actually good at teaching. Watching his classmates master spells under his guidance filled him with a sense of purpose he hadn't felt since before the third task. And through it all, Hermione was there, supporting him, encouraging him, believing in him when he doubted himself. One evening after a particularly successful DA meeting, Harry and Hermione walked back to Gryffindor Tower together. The castle was quiet, most students already in bed. "You were brilliant tonight," Hermione said. "The way you explained the shield charm to Neville, he finally got it." "I couldn't do this without you," Harry admitted. "You're the one who organized everything, who convinced people to join, who keeps track of everything." Hermione blushed slightly. "We make a good team." They paused in an empty corridor, moonlight streaming through the windows. Harry turned to face Hermione, really face her. Her brown eyes were warm and bright, her face open and honest. She'd been there for everything. Every triumph, every disaster. She knew him better than anyone. "Hermione," he started, but wasn't sure what he wanted to say. "Yes," she prompted gently. I'm glad you're here, that you've always been here." Something flickered across Hermione's face, an emotion Harry couldn't quite identify. "I'll always be here, Harry. No matter what happens." The moment stretched between them, charged with something new and undefined. Harry's heart was pounding. He had the sudden, overwhelming urge to close the distance between them, to find out if her lips were as soft as they looked. But then footsteps echoed down the corridor. They sprang apart, and the moment shattered. "We should get back," Hermione said quickly, her cheeks pink. "Right," Harry agreed, feeling slightly dazed. As they climbed through the portrait hole into Gryffindor Tower, Harry's mind was spinning. What was happening to him? These feelings he was developing for Hermione, they were confusing and intense and completely unexpected. She was his best friend. He wasn't supposed to think about kissing her. But he couldn't deny it anymore. Something fundamental had shifted between them. The question was, did Hermione feel it too? And more importantly, what was he going to do about it? That night, Harry lay awake again, thinking about brown eyes and warm smiles and a friendship that might be transforming into something more. Voldemort was out there, the Ministry was against him, and he had the weight of a prophecy hanging over his head. But somehow, when he thought about Hermione, none of that seemed quite as overwhelming. She made him feel stronger, braver, like maybe, just maybe, he could face whatever was coming. And that realization, that Hermione Granger made him feel like the best version of himself, was both terrifying and exhilarating. Because if she was his true love, if this was the beginning of something real, then everything was about to change. The following weeks passed in a blur of classes, DA meetings, and increasingly uncomfortable encounters with Professor Umbridge. Harry's detentions with her had become a regular occurrence, and the words, "I must not tell lies," were now permanently scarred into the back of his hand. But he refused to let her break him. What kept him going, what made the pain bearable, was Hermione. She'd discovered what Umbridge was doing to him during detention, and her fury had been magnificent to behold. She'd wanted to go straight to Dumbledore, to McGonagall, to anyone who would listen. But Harry had convinced her to stay quiet. Drawing more attention to Umbridge's cruelty would only make things worse. Instead, Hermione had taken to applying Murtlap essence to his hand every night. They developed a routine, meeting in a quiet corner of the common room after everyone else had gone to bed. Hermione would carefully clean his wounds, her touch gentle and precise, while they talked in hushed voices about everything and nothing. "This is barbaric," Hermione muttered one night, her fingers wrapped around his injured hand. "She's torturing you, and no one's doing anything about it." "It's fine," Harry said, though the burning sensation in his hand suggested otherwise. "I can handle it." Hermione looked up at him, her brown eyes blazing with an emotion that made Harry's breath catch. "You shouldn't have to handle it. You shouldn't have to suffer like this just for telling the truth." The intensity in her gaze, the way she held his hand so carefully, it made something warm unfurl in Harry's chest. He was hyper-aware of her proximity, of the way her hair fell across her shoulder, of the slight furrow between her brows as she concentrated on healing him. "Hermione," he said softly. She met his eyes, and the moment stretched between them. Harry felt himself leaning forward, drawn to her like a magnet. Hermione's lips parted slightly, her breath quickening. "Harry, there you two are," Ron's voice boomed across the common room. They sprang apart so quickly that Hermione nearly knocked over the bowl of Murtlap essence. Ron bounded over, oblivious to the tension crackling in the air. "Been looking for you everywhere," Ron said cheerfully. "Wanted to show you this brilliant move I figured out for Wizard's chess. Harry, you've got to see it." "Maybe later," Harry said, trying to keep the frustration out of his voice. But Ron had already pulled up a chair, launching into an elaborate explanation of his chess strategy. Hermione caught Harry's eye, and something passed between them, an acknowledgement of the interrupted moment. She gave him a small, private smile before gathering up her healing supplies. "I should get to bed," she said quietly. "Good night, Harry." "Ron." Harry watched her climb the stairs to the girls' dormitory, his heart still racing. What would have happened if Ron hadn't interrupted them? Would he have kissed her? More importantly, would she have let him? The next day in the library, Harry found himself unable to concentrate on his transfiguration essay. Hermione sat across from him, her quill scratching purposefully across her parchment, completely absorbed in her work. How did she do it? How could she focus when all Harry could think about was the way she'd looked at him last night? "Harry, you've written the same sentence 3 times, Hermione said without looking up from her own work. Harry glanced down at his parchment. She was right. "I'm distracted," he admitted. "By what?" Hermione asked, finally meeting his gaze. "By you." The words were right there, balanced on the tip of his tongue. But fear held them back. What if he was wrong about her feelings? What if he ruined their friendship over a stupid crush? "Just, everything," Harry said vaguely. "Umbridge, the Ministry, Voldemort." Hermione's expression softened. "I know it's overwhelming, but you're not alone in this. You have people who care about you, who'll stand by you no matter what." "Do I?" Harry asked, the question coming out more vulnerable than he'd intended. Hermione reached across the table, her hand covering his. "Always," she said firmly. "You'll always have me." The warmth of her hand, the certainty in her voice, it made Harry's chest tighten with emotion. He turned his hand over, lacing his fingers through hers. Hermione's eyes widened slightly, but she didn't pull away. They sat like that for a long moment, hands intertwined across a pile of textbooks, the rest of the library fading into insignificance. Harry felt like he was standing on the edge of something monumental, something that would change everything. Hermione. Well, a sneering voice interrupted. Potter and the Mudblood, how touching. Harry's head snapped up to see Draco Malfoy standing at the end of their table, flanked by Crabbe and Goyle. Rage flooded through Harry. He started to stand, his wand hand twitching, but Hermione squeezed his fingers warningly. Ignore him, she said quietly. Listen to your girlfriend. Potter, Malfoy taunted. Wouldn't want to get another detention with Umbridge, would you? I heard she's got some creative punishments lined up. Shove off. Malfoy, Harry said through gritted teeth. Malfoy smirked. Touchy. I suppose that's what happens when you're dating someone so far beneath you. Even if you are the famous Harry Potter, a mudblood is still a mudblood. Harry was on his feet in an instant, his wand drawn. But Hermione was faster. She'd pulled her own wand and cast a silent spell that sent Malfoy's bag exploding, scattering his books and parchments across the library floor. Oops, Hermione said sweetly. How clumsy of me. Madame Pants came swooping down on them like an avenging angel. Out. All of you. Out. They gathered their things hastily. Harry glaring at Malfoy as they left. Once they were in the corridor, safely away from the library. Harry turned to Hermione. That was brilliant, he said. Hermione was still flushed with anger. He has no right to say those things. Are you okay? Harry asked, concerned by the tremor in her voice. I'm fine, Hermione said sharply. Then her expression softened. Sorry. I hate him. I hate the way he looks at me, like I'm something he scraped off his shoe. Harry stepped closer, gently touching her arm. You're worth 100 of him. You know that, right? Hermione looked up at him, her eyes shining with unshed tears. Do you really think so? I know so, Harry said fiercely. You're the smartest, bravest, most incredible person I've ever met. Your blood status doesn't define you. Nothing Malfoy says could ever change that. A single tear escaped, rolling down Hermione's cheek. Without thinking, Harry reached up and wiped it away with his thumb. The gesture was intimate, tender. Hermione's breath hitched. Harry, she whispered. They were so close now. Harry could count the flecks of gold in her brown eyes. Could see the slight tremble of her lips. His heart was pounding so hard he was certain she must be able to hear it. I need to tell you something, Harry said, his voice rough. What? Hermione asked breathlessly. Harry. Hermione. There you are. Harry closed his eyes in frustration. Ron. Again. His best friend came jogging down the corridor, completely oblivious to the moment he'd just destroyed. Been looking for you. We've got DA meeting in 10 minutes. Neville's already at the room of requirement. Harry stepped back from Hermione, trying to calm his racing heart. Right. The meeting. You okay? Ron asked, looking between them with a confused expression. You both look weird. We're fine, Hermione said quickly, brushing past Ron. Let's go. The DA meeting was productive as always. Harry taught them the Patronus charm, demonstrating with his own silver stag. Hermione managed to produce a complete corporeal Patronus on her third try, a sleek otter that bounded around the room with obvious joy. That's amazing. Hermione, Harry said, genuinely impressed. Hermione beamed at him. I had a good teacher. After the meeting, as students filed out, Harry found himself alone with Hermione again. She was organizing the practice cushions, her movements careful and methodical. Hermione, about earlier, Harry started. I know, she said softly, not turning around. We keep getting interrupted. It's like the universe doesn't want us to have a conversation, Harry said, attempting humor. Hermione finally turned to face him. Is it just a conversation you wanted to have? The question hung in the air between them. Harry's mouth went dry. This was it. The moment of truth. No, he admitted. It's not. Hermione took a step closer. Then another. What did you want? Harry. I wanted to tell you that you're all I think about, Harry said, the words tumbling out in a rush. That when I'm with you, everything else fades away. That you make me feel brave and strong and like maybe I can actually survive this war. I wanted to tell you that somewhere along the way, You stopped being just my best friend, and became something more." Hermione's eyes were wide, her lips parted in surprise. "Harry, you don't have to say anything," Harry interrupted, suddenly terrified that he'd made a massive mistake. I needed you to know. Even if you don't feel the same way. I needed you to know. Don't feel the same way," Hermione repeated, her voice rising slightly. "Harry, I've had feelings for you since third year." Harry's brain short-circuited. "What? I thought I was being obvious," Hermione said, a small laugh escaping her. "All the time I spend with you, the way I worry about you constantly, did you really think that was just friendship?" I didn't know," Harry stammered. I mean, you never said anything." "Neither did you," Hermione pointed out. "I only just realized how I felt," Harry admitted. "At the start of this year. Something changed, and suddenly I couldn't stop thinking about you." Hermione smiled, and it was radiant. "So what now?" Harry stepped closer, his heart thundering in his chest. "Now, I'd really like to kiss you. If that's okay." "That's very okay," Hermione whispered. Harry cupped her face gently, his thumb tracing along her cheekbone. Hermione's eyes fluttered closed. And then, finally, after weeks of interrupted moments and unspoken feelings, Harry kissed her. Her lips were soft and warm and perfect. The kiss started gentle, tentative, but quickly deepened as weeks of pent-up longing flooded through them both. Hermione's hands fisted in Harry's robes, pulling him closer. Harry wrapped his arms around her waist, anchoring her to him. When they finally pulled apart, both breathing heavily, Harry rested his forehead against hers. "Wow," he breathed. "Yeah," Hermione agreed, her voice dazed. "Wow." They stood like that for a long moment, wrapped in each other's arms, the rest of the world forgotten. Harry felt lighter than he had in months. Like a weight he hadn't known he was carrying had finally been lifted. "So, are we doing this?" Harry asked. "Actually doing this? I think we are," Hermione said, smiling up at him. "Ron's going to be weird about it," Harry warned. "Ron's weird about everything," Hermione said dismissively. "He'll adjust." Harry kissed her again, slower this time, savoring it. When they finally left the room of requirement, hands intertwined, he felt like he was walking on air. Everything was changing. The war was coming, the stakes were higher than ever, and danger lurked around every corner. But Harry had Hermione by his side. His best friend, his partner, his true love, and somehow, that made all the difference. The morning after their first kiss, Harry woke with a smile on his face. For a few blissful seconds, he simply lay in bed, replaying the memory of Hermione's lips on his, the way she'd felt in his arms. Then reality crashed back in. They had to tell Ron. Harry groaned and pulled his pillow over his face. Ron was going to be insufferable about this. His two best friends getting together without telling him first. Harry could already hear the complaints. "You all right, mate?" Dean Thomas asked from across the dormitory. "You've been making weird noises for the past 5 minutes. "I'm fine," Harry said, his voice muffled by the pillow. He dragged himself out of bed and got ready for the day. As he descended the stairs to the common room, he spotted Hermione sitting by the fireplace with a book in her lap. She looked up as he approached, and the smile that spread across her face made Harry's heart skip a beat. "Good morning," she said softly. "Morning," Harry replied, acutely aware that several other Gryffindors were in the common room. He wanted to kiss her again, but he wasn't sure about doing it in front of an audience. Hermione seemed to understand his hesitation. She stood, closing her book. "Shall we go to breakfast?" They walked down to the Great Hall together, their hands brushing occasionally but not quite holding. Harry was hyper-aware of her presence beside him, of the way her shoulder bumped against his arm, of the subtle scent of her lavender shampoo. "We need to talk to Ron," Hermione said quietly as they approached the entrance hall. "I know," Harry sighed. "How do you think he'll take it?" "Honestly, I have no idea," Hermione admitted. "But he's our best friend. He deserves to know." They found Ron already seated at the Gryffindor table, piling his plate high with bacon and eggs. He looked up as they sat down across from him. "About time," Ron said through a mouthful of food. "Thought you two had gotten lost." Harry and Hermione exchanged a glance. "Ron, we need to tell you something," Harry started. Ron's eyes widened. "Is it Umbridge? Has she done something worse? Because I swear, I'll hex that toad-faced." It's not about Umbridge, Hermione interrupted. It's about us. Ron looked between them, confusion written all over his face. What about you? Harry and I are together, Hermione said simply. As in, dating. The piece of bacon Ron had been holding dropped from his fork. He stared at them, his mouth opening and closing like a fish. Harry braced himself for anger, for accusations of being left out. Finally, Ron said. Harry blinked. What? Finally, Ron repeated, grinning. Do you know how painful it's been watching you two dance around each other? I thought I was going to have to lock you in a broom closet or something. You're not upset? Hermione asked, clearly as surprised as Harry. Why would I be upset? Ron asked. You're my two best friends. If you're happy together, then I'm happy for you. Plus, you make way more sense than you and Crumb. Hermione. Hermione's cheeks flushed pink. Victor and I were just friends. Sure you were, Ron said, winking at Harry. But seriously, mates, this is good. Really good. Just, maybe don't be too disgusting about it, yeah. I don't need to see constant snogging. Relief flooded through Harry. We'll try to control ourselves. Can't promise anything, Hermione added with a mischievous smile. Ron threw a piece of toast at her. Oi, I take back everything nice I said. The three of them laughed, and just like that, the tension dissolved. Harry reached under the table and found Hermione's hand, squeezing it gently. She squeezed back, and when their eyes met, Harry felt that same warm flutter in his chest. The next few weeks fell into a comfortable pattern. Harry and Hermione were careful not to flaunt their relationship, especially around the younger students who looked up to Harry. But they stole moments together whenever they could. Study sessions in the library that turned into whispered conversations and stolen kisses behind tall bookshelves. Evening walks around the grounds where they could talk about everything and nothing. Late nights in the common room after everyone else had gone to bed. Hermione curled against Harry's side while they discussed strategies for the DA or simply enjoyed each other's company. Harry discovered that dating Hermione was remarkably easy. They already knew each other so well, already trusted each other implicitly. The physical affection was new, but it felt natural. Right, like this was how things were always meant to be. Of course, not everything was perfect. Professor Umbridge had increased her scrutiny of Harry, assigning him detentions for the smallest infractions. His hand was a constant mess of scars, the words, "I must not tell lies," carved so deep they might never fully fade. Hermione hated it, hated seeing him in pain. But there was nothing they could do except endure. The DA meetings became increasingly important as Umbridge tightened her grip on Hogwarts. She'd formed an inquisitorial squad, made up primarily of Slytherins, who patrolled the corridors looking for rule breakers. Harry and Hermione had to be more careful than ever about their secret meetings. One evening in mid-November, as snow began to fall over the castle, Harry was teaching the DA advanced defensive spells. Hermione partnered with Neville, patiently helping him perfect his stunning spell. Harry watched her as he made rounds, correcting grips and offering encouragement. She was so patient, so kind. It made him fall for her even harder. After the meeting ended, Harry and Hermione lingered in the room of requirement. They'd taken to staying behind after each session, using the privacy to be together without watchful eyes. You're getting really good at this, you know, Hermione said, settling onto one of the cushions. Teaching. I mean, the way you explain things, how you encourage everyone. You're a natural. Harry sat down beside her, pulling her close. I learned from the best, he said, pressing a kiss to her temple. Hermione tilted her face up, capturing his lips in a proper kiss. Harry sighed into it, one hand coming up to cup her cheek. These moments, stolen and secret as they were, had become his favorite part of each day. I wish we didn't have to hide, Hermione murmured against his lips. We're not really hiding, Harry pointed out. Ron knows. So do Ginny and Neville. We're just being discreet. I suppose, Hermione said, but she didn't sound convinced. I want to be able to hold your hand in the corridors without worrying about who's watching. I want to kiss you goodnight without sneaking around. Harry understood her frustration. He felt it too. After OWLs, he promised. Once this year is over, once we don't have to worry about Umbridge watching our every move, we'll be more open about it. Deal. Deal, Hermione agreed, snuggling closer to him. They sat in comfortable silence for a while, Harry's fingers idly playing with Hermione's hair. Outside, snow fell in thick white flakes, blanketing the grounds in pristine white. "Harry, can I ask you something?" Hermione said quietly. "Anything. Do you ever think about the future? After Hogwarts?" Harry tensed slightly. He tried not to think about the future too much. Not when there was a prophecy hanging over his head, one that said either he or Voldemort would die. "Sometimes," he said carefully. "Why? I just wonder what it'll be like," Hermione said. "Whether we'll still be together. Whether we'll—" She trailed off, biting her lip. Harry turned her face toward him, making her meet his eyes. "I'm not going anywhere," he said firmly. "Whatever the future holds, I want you in it." "Okay." Hermione's eyes shimmered with emotion. "Okay," she whispered. They kissed again, slow and sweet. Harry tried to pour all his feelings into it, all his hopes for a future he wasn't sure he'd get to have. When they finally pulled apart, Hermione rested her head on his shoulder. "We should probably get back," she said reluctantly. "It's getting late." 5 more minutes, Harry bargained. Hermione laughed. "All right, 5 more minutes." Those 5 minutes turned into 20, but neither of them complained. When they finally made their way back to Gryffindor Tower, they found Ron waiting up for them in the common room. "Took you long enough," he said, looking up from his chess set. Ginny was starting to worry. "We're fine," Harry assured him. "Just lost track of time." Ron gave them a knowing look but didn't comment. "Well, now that you're here, fancy a game? I've been practicing a new opening move." Harry glanced at Hermione, who nodded encouragingly. "Sure," he said, settling down across from Ron. "But I'm going to absolutely destroy you. In your dreams." "Potter," Ron shot back. Hermione curled up in a nearby armchair with a book, occasionally glancing up to watch them play. It was domestic and comfortable and exactly what Harry needed. These moments of normalcy, of friendship and laughter and peace. They were precious, worth fighting for. As November turned to December, the castle transformed for Christmas. Suits of armor sang carols, enchanted snow drifted down in the Great Hall, and massive Christmas trees lined the corridors. Harry found himself actually looking forward to the holidays. He'd convinced the Dursleys to let him stay at Hogwarts, which meant more time with Hermione. On the last Hogsmeade weekend before break, Harry and Hermione snuck away from Ron to spend time alone together. They walked through the snow-covered village, their hands clasped together inside Harry's cloak pocket. "Should we get Ron something ridiculous for Christmas?" Hermione asked as they browsed the shelves at Zonko's joke shop. "Absolutely," Harry agreed. "He got me those Chudley Cannon socks last year. Time for revenge." They ended up purchasing a selection of Fred and George's latest inventions from Weasley's, Wizard Wheez's new Hogsmeade branch, including something called Canary Creams. Ron was going to hate it. It was perfect. As they left the shop, Harry pulled Hermione into a quiet alley. Snow was falling gently around them, catching in Hermione's hair like diamonds. Harry brushed a flake from her nose, smiling at her. "You're beautiful," he said softly. Hermione blushed. "It's just the snow." "It's not just the snow," Harry insisted. "It's you. Always you." He kissed her there in the falling snow, and for a moment, nothing else existed. Not the war, not Voldemort, not the weight of the prophecy. Just him and Hermione and the promise of something beautiful in the midst of darkness. When they finally pulled apart, both shivering from the cold, Hermione was smiling. "We should get to the Three Broomsticks," she said. "Before we freeze." They met Ron at the pub, where they shared butterbeers and gossip about their classmates. Cho Chang walked by their table at one point, giving Harry a shy smile. He'd fancied her last year, had even kissed her under the mistletoe. But now, looking at Hermione's bright eyes and warm smile, he couldn't imagine wanting anyone else. "You know, I never thanked you," Harry said later that evening, as he and Hermione sat by the fire in the common room. "For what?" Hermione asked. "For believing in me. For standing by me when everyone else thought I was lying. For organizing the DA. For everything." Hermione's expression softened. "You don't have to thank me for that. I'll always stand by you, Harry. No matter what." "I know," Harry said. "But I wanted you to know how much it means to me." "How much you mean to me." "You mean everything to me," Hermione said quietly. "I hope you know that." Harry pulled her close, pressing a kiss to the top of her head. I do now. As December wore on, Harry found himself happier than he'd been in years. Despite everything, despite Umbridge and the Ministry and the looming threat of Voldemort, he had something worth fighting for. Someone who made him want to survive the war ahead. Christmas morning dawned bright and cold. Harry woke to find presents piled at the foot of his bed. The usual gifts from the Weasleys, something from Hagrid, and a small, carefully wrapped package with Hermione's handwriting on the tag. Harry opened it carefully. Inside was a beautiful silver pocket watch, engraved with the words, "I'll always have your back." Harry's throat tightened with emotion. He clutched the watch, overwhelmed by the thoughtfulness of the gift. Hermione understood him better than anyone, knew what he needed, what would matter to him. He found her in the common room, already awake despite the early hour. She looked up as he approached, her face brightening. "Merry Christmas," she said. "Merry Christmas," Harry replied, sitting beside her. "Thank you for the watch. It's perfect. I hoped you'd like it," Hermione said, looking pleased. "I wanted to give you something that showed how I feel." Harry cupped her face in his hands. "I love it. And I love you." The words slipped out before he could stop them. Hermione's eyes widened, her lips parting in surprise. Harry's heart hammered in his chest. It was too soon, wasn't it? They'd only been together for a few weeks. But then Hermione smiled, radiant and beautiful. "I love you too," she whispered. Harry kissed her, pouring every ounce of feeling into it. When they broke apart, both breathing heavily, Harry rested his forehead against hers. "Best Christmas ever," he murmured. "Definitely," Hermione agreed. And as snow fell outside the windows, as the fire crackled warmly in the grate, Harry allowed himself to hope. To dream of a future where he and Hermione could be together without fear. Where they could build a life together. It was a fragile hope, as delicate as the snowflakes drifting past the windows. But it was hope nonetheless. And that, Harry was learning, was everything. The new year brought with it a sense of foreboding that Harry couldn't shake. The happiness of Christmas, of confessing his love to Hermione, felt like a distant memory as January's bitter cold settled over Hogwarts. Something was coming. He could feel it in his bones. His scar had been hurting more frequently, sharp jolts of pain that left him gasping. He tried to hide it from Hermione, but she knew him too well. She'd catch him rubbing his forehead, her eyes darkening with worry. "You need to tell Dumbledore," she insisted one evening after a particularly bad episode. They were alone in the room of requirement, supposedly preparing for the next DA meeting. "It's fine," Harry said, though the lingering ache suggested otherwise. "It's just Voldemort being angry about something." Hermione flinched at the name but didn't look away. "That's exactly why you need to tell someone. Harry, what if he's planning something? What if these visions are important?" "They're not visions," Harry protested. "Just feelings, emotions." But that wasn't entirely true. Sometimes, when his scar hurt badly enough, he caught glimpses of things. A long corridor, a door, a sense of desperate urgency. He didn't understand what it meant, and that terrified him. Hermione studied his face, her brown eyes searching. "You're not telling me everything." Harry sighed. He could never hide anything from her. "Sometimes I see things. Brief flashes. But they don't make sense." "What kind of things?" Hermione pressed. "A corridor. A door at the end. It feels important somehow. Like there's something behind that door that Voldemort wants desperately." Hermione's expression turned thoughtful. "The Department of Mysteries," she murmured. "What? I've been reading about it," Hermione explained. "The Department of Mysteries is housed in the Ministry of Magic. It's where they conduct top-secret research. One of the departments is entirely dedicated to studying prophecies." Harry's blood ran cold. The prophecy. The one Dumbledore had mentioned last year, the one that somehow connected him to Voldemort. "You think that's what he's after? It makes sense, doesn't it?" Hermione said. "If there's a prophecy about you and Voldemort, he'd want to know what it says." "But why would I be seeing it?" Harry asked. "Why would I feel what he's feeling?" Hermione bit her lip, clearly troubled. "I don't know. But Harry, this is serious. You need to talk to Dumbledore about this." Harry knew she was right. But the thought of admitting to these visions, of acknowledging this connection to Voldemort, filled him with dread. What if there was something wrong with him? What if the connection meant he was somehow tainted by dark magic? as if sensing his thoughts. Hermione took his hands in hers. Whatever this is, we'll figure it out together. You're not alone in this. I know, Harry said softly. I don't know what I'd do without you. Good thing you'll never have to find out, Hermione replied, leaning up to kiss him gently. The kiss was sweet and comforting, grounding Harry in the present moment. Whatever darkness was coming, whatever challenges lay ahead, he had Hermione. That had to count for something. Over the next few weeks, Harry's visions intensified. He began having dreams about the corridor, about walking down it toward that mysterious door. The dreams felt so real that he'd wake up disoriented, convinced he'd actually been there. Hermione grew increasingly worried. She'd taken to checking on him at odd hours, sneaking down from the girls' dormitory to make sure he was okay. Ron had noticed, but being Ron, he'd just shrugged and said Harry was lucky to have such a devoted girlfriend. One night in late January, Harry had the worst vision yet. He dreamed he was a snake, slithering through the Ministry of Magic. He felt the cold stone beneath his belly, tasted the air with his forked tongue. And then, suddenly, he was attacking someone. Arthur Weasley. Harry woke with a scream, his scar burning like fire. Ron bolted upright in his bed, wand drawn. What is it? Ron demanded. What's wrong? Your dad, Harry gasped. He's been attacked. At the Ministry. We need to get help. Ron's face went white. How do you know? I saw it, Harry said, stumbling out of bed. I was there. I was the snake. Within minutes, they'd roused Professor McGonagall. She took them straight to Dumbledore's office, where the headmaster listened gravely to Harry's account. Without hesitation, Dumbledore sent word to the Order of the Phoenix. The wait was agonizing. Harry, Ron, and Hermione sat in Dumbledore's office, none of them speaking. Hermione had grabbed Harry's hand as soon as they'd arrived, and she hadn't let go. Her grip was the only thing keeping him anchored. Finally, Dumbledore received word. Arthur Weasley had indeed been attacked while on guard duty at the Ministry. He was alive, but badly injured. He'd been found just in time. You saved his life, Harry, Dumbledore said quietly. But Harry didn't feel like a hero. He felt sick, because he hadn't just seen the attack. He'd been inside the snake. He'd felt the urge to bite, to kill. What did that mean? What was happening to him? After Ron had been whisked away to St. Mungo's to see his father, Dumbledore asked Harry and Hermione to remain. The headmaster's blue eyes were serious behind his half-moon spectacles. I believe it is time we discussed the connection between you and Voldemort. Harry, Dumbledore said. Harry's stomach dropped. Beside him, Hermione squeezed his hand tighter. Dumbledore explained about legilimency, about the mental connection that had formed between Harry and Voldemort when the killing curse had failed. He spoke of the dangers of this link, of how Voldemort might use it to manipulate Harry. I am arranging for Professor Snape to give you occlumency lessons, Dumbledore concluded. You must learn to close your mind against these intrusions. Snape, Harry repeated, his heart sinking. Of all the teachers at Hogwarts, Snape hated him the most. Professor Snape is a highly accomplished occlumens, Dumbledore said firmly. He is the best qualified to teach you. After they left Dumbledore's office, Hermione turned to Harry. Are you okay? I don't know, Harry admitted. Hermione, I was the snake. I wanted to kill Mr. Weasley. What if I'm becoming like Voldemort? Don't, Hermione said fiercely. Don't even think that. You're nothing like him. You have a connection to him, but that doesn't define who you are. You're good, Harry. The fact that you're worried about this proves it. But what if he can control me? Harry whispered. What if he makes me hurt someone? What if I hurt you? Hermione cupped his face in her hands, forcing him to meet her eyes. You won't. I trust you completely. And we're going to get through this. You'll learn occlumency, you'll close your mind, and this connection will stop being a problem. Harry wanted to believe her. But fear had taken root in his chest. The connection to Voldemort terrified him in ways he couldn't fully articulate. It felt like a violation, like something dark and poisonous had infected his mind. Come here, Hermione said softly, pulling him into a hug. Harry wrapped his arms around her, burying his face in her hair. She smelled like lavender and old books and safety. Being with her was the only time he felt truly at peace. I love you, he murmured against her hair. I love you too, Hermione replied. We're going to be okay. I promise. Harry's first occlumency lesson with Snape was a disaster. The potion's master took obvious pleasure in invading Harry's mind, dredging up embarrassing and painful memories. Harry saw his Aunt Petunia shrieking at him. Saw Dudley and his gang chasing him. Saw Cedric's dead eyes staring at nothing. By the end of the lesson, Harry was shaking with rage and humiliation. Snape dismissed him with a sneer, instructing him to practice clearing his mind before their next meeting. Hermione found Harry in the common room afterward, looking pale and furious. She didn't ask what had happened. She just sat beside him, taking his hand. It was awful, Harry said after a long silence. He saw everything. Every embarrassing moment, every painful memory. And he enjoyed it. I'm sorry, Hermione said. But, did you learn anything? How to feel violated? Harry said bitterly. Hermione's expression was sympathetic but firm. I know it's hard, but you need to learn this. Harry, for your own safety. She was right. Harry knew she was right. But that didn't make it any easier. Over the following weeks, Harry struggled with occlumency. No matter how hard he tried, he couldn't empty his mind. Thoughts and feelings kept bubbling up, making it impossible to achieve the blank state Snape demanded. And every failed attempt resulted in Snape invading his mind again, witnessing more private moments. The only bright spot in Harry's life was Hermione. She was his constant, his anchor. When everything else felt like it was spinning out of control, she was there. Steady and sure and unfailingly loyal. They'd taken to spending their free periods in the library, tucked away in a secluded corner where they could study and talk without interruption. Well, mostly study. Sometimes studying turned into kissing. Harry wasn't complaining. Tell me something good, Harry said one afternoon, closing his Transfiguration textbook in frustration. Something good, Hermione repeated, looking up from her notes. Yeah, something that has nothing to do with occlumency or Voldemort or OWLs. Just, something good. Hermione considered for a moment. Then she smiled. When I was 7, my parents took me to Paris. We climbed the Eiffel Tower and ate crepes and went to the Louvre. It was the first time I'd been out of England. I remember thinking the whole world felt magical, even before I knew magic was real. Harry smiled. He loved learning these little details about Hermione's life. That sounds amazing. What about you? Hermione asked. What's a good memory from before Hogwarts? Harry had to think hard. His childhood with the Dursleys hadn't exactly been filled with happy moments. But then he remembered. There was this time at primary school. We went on a field trip to the zoo. I accidentally set a python loose. Hermione's eyes widened. That was you doing magic. I didn't know it at the time, Harry said. But yeah, the glass just vanished. The snake thanked me and slithered off. It was the first time I'd ever done something the Dursleys couldn't explain away. I wish I'd known you then, Hermione said softly. Before Hogwarts. Maybe I could have made things easier for you. You make things easier for me now, Harry said. That's what matters. He leaned across the table to kiss her. Hermione met him halfway, her hand coming up to cup his cheek. These moments, stolen and sweet, were what kept Harry going. February brought Valentine's Day, and with it, unexpected drama. Some of the younger students had organized a Valentine's Day celebration in the Great Hall. There were pink decorations everywhere, and students were sending each other singing Valentines. Harry received 3. One from an overeager third-year Hufflepuff. One from Romilda Vane, which contained some rather inappropriate suggestions. And one from Hermione. Hermione's Valentine was simple. Just a card with a hand-drawn heart and the words, "You're my favorite person." But it meant more to Harry than any singing Cupid or elaborate declaration. He found Hermione after breakfast, pulled her into an empty classroom, and kissed her thoroughly. Best Valentine ever, he murmured against her lips. I'm glad you liked it, Hermione said, blushing prettily. I wasn't sure if it was too simple. It was perfect, Harry assured her. Just like you. Hermione laughed. Flatterer. It's not flattery if it's true, Harry countered. They spent the rest of the morning together, walking through the grounds despite the cold. Snow still covered everything, glittering in the weak February sunlight. Harry held Hermione's hand inside his pocket, their fingers intertwined. Sometimes I wish we could just stay like this forever, Hermione said quietly. Just the two of us, away from everything else. Me too, Harry admitted. But we can't hide forever. I know, Hermione sighed. Doesn't mean I can't wish for it though. That night, Harry had another vision. He saw Sirius being tortured in the Department of Mysteries. Heard his godfather's screams. Felt Voldemort's triumph. Harry woke with his scar searing. This time, he didn't hesitate. He had to save Sirius. He had to get to the Ministry. He roused Ron and Hermione, explaining what he'd seen. Hermione was immediately skeptical. Harry, what if it's a trap? She asked. What if Voldemort is using the connection to lure you there? Then I'll deal with it, Harry said stubbornly. But I'm not leaving Sirius to die. At least let me verify, Hermione pleaded. Let me check if Sirius is actually at Grimmauld Place before we do anything rash. Harry wanted to argue. Every second they wasted was another second Sirius suffered. But Hermione's logic was sound. Fine, but quickly. Hermione managed to use the flow network in Umbridge's office to contact Grimmauld Place. Creature answered, and he confirmed that Sirius had gone out. That he was not at home. That was all the confirmation Harry needed. We're going, he said firmly. Hermione looked torn. Harry, I still think this might be a trap. But, if there's even a chance Sirius needs help, then I'm coming with you. Me too, Ron added. Ginny, Neville, and Luna also insisted on joining them. Together, the six of them made their way to the Ministry of Magic using Thestrals from the Forbidden Forest. As they flew through the night sky, Hermione pressed close to Harry. Whatever happens, we face it together, she said. Together, Harry agreed. But even as he said it, dread coiled in his stomach. Something about this felt wrong. And yet, he couldn't turn back. Not when Sirius might be in danger. They landed in London and made their way into the Ministry. The building was eerily empty at night. Their footsteps echoed through deserted corridors as they searched for the Department of Mysteries. Finally, they found it. The door from Harry's dreams. The long corridor. Everything exactly as he'd seen it. Harry, I have a bad feeling about this, Hermione whispered. Me too, Harry admitted. But we're here now. He pushed open the door, and they stepped into darkness. Into danger. Into a trap that would change everything. Behind them, the door swung shut with an ominous click. And Harry realized, too late, that Hermione had been right all along. The Department of Mysteries was unlike anything Harry had ever seen. Row upon row of shelves stretched into darkness, each one lined with dusty glass orbs that glowed faintly in the dim light. The air felt heavy, oppressive, like the weight of countless secrets pressing down on them. Lumos, Hermione whispered, and her wand tip flared to life. The others followed suit, their wands casting eerie shadows across the shelves. Harry moved forward cautiously, his heart pounding. Where was Sirius? The vision had shown him here, being tortured by Voldemort. But the room was silent. Too silent. Harry, I don't like this, Hermione said, her voice barely audible. She'd moved closer to him, her free hand finding his. Spread out, Harry instructed the others. Look for any sign of Sirius. They split up, each taking a different aisle between the towering shelves. Harry kept Hermione close, unwilling to let her out of his sight. Something felt fundamentally wrong about this place. The orbs seemed to pulse with an otherworldly light, and Harry could hear faint whispers emanating from them. What are these things? Ron asked from somewhere to their left. Prophecies, Hermione breathed. Harry, these are all prophecies. Harry stopped walking. His eyes scanned the shelves until he found what he was looking for. There, on a shelf at eye level, was an orb with a small tag beneath it. He moved closer, reading the faded writing. SPT to APWBD. Dark Lord and Harry Potter. That's my name, Harry said, his voice sounding strange even to his own ears. This prophecy is about me. Hermione came to stand beside him, reading the tag. Harry, you should take it. If Voldemort wants it, then we need to keep it from him. Harry reached out, his fingers closing around the cool glass. The moment he touched it, the orb began to glow more brightly. And then, a voice filled the air. Sybil Trelawney's voice, but stronger and more resonant than Harry had ever heard it. The one with the power to vanquish the Dark Lord approaches. Born to those who have thrice defied him, born as the seventh month dies. And the Dark Lord will mark him as his equal, but he will have power the Dark Lord knows not. And either must die at the hand of the other, for neither can live while the other survives. The words echoed through the chamber. Harry stood frozen, the prophecy clutched in his hand. Either must die at the hand of the other. One of them had to die. There was no other way. Harry, Hermione started, her voice thick with emotion. But before she could finish, slow clapping echoed through the darkness. Harry's blood ran cold. He knew that mocking applause. Death Eaters emerged from the shadows. Lucius Malfoy led them, his wand pointed directly at Harry. Bellatrix Lestrange was there too, her wild eyes gleaming with malice. At least a dozen Death Eaters surrounded them, cutting off any escape. Very good, Potter, Lucius drawled. Now, give me the prophecy. Harry's friends had regrouped, forming a protective circle with their wands raised. Hermione pressed against Harry's side, her breathing rapid but steady. Where's Sirius? Harry demanded. Bellatrix cackled. The Dark Lord used you, you stupid boy. There is no black here. Just you, and that prophecy, and us. Rage and humiliation flooded through Harry. Hermione had been right. It had been a trap. And he'd led his friends directly into it. I'm not giving you anything, Harry said, his voice hard. Then your friends will die, Lucius said simply. Starting with the mudblood. Several wands swung toward Hermione. Harry moved instinctively, putting himself between her and the Death Eaters. Don't you dare touch her. How touching, Bellatrix cooed. The boy hero and his filthy little girlfriend. This will be fun. Run, Hermione hissed in Harry's ear. On 3. 1, 2, Harry continued, understanding her plan. 3, they shouted together. Chaos erupted. Harry threw the prophecy to Hermione, who caught it and sprinted down an aisle. The Death Eaters gave chase, firing curses that shattered prophecy orbs and sent glass flying everywhere. Harry and his friends ran in different directions, trying to divide their pursuers. Harry raced after Hermione, his heart in his throat. She was fast, but the Death Eaters were faster. A stunning spell flew past her head, missing by inches. Stupefy, Harry roared, hitting a Death Eater square in the back. They burst through a door into another room. This one was filled with strange archways and a raised dais. In the center stood an ancient stone archway with a tattered black veil hanging in its opening. The veil rippled despite the still air, and Harry could hear whispers coming from beyond it. Hermione skidded to a halt. That's the veil, she said, her eyes wide. Harry, we need to stay away from it. People who go through don't come back. More Death Eaters poured into the room. Harry and Hermione backed up toward the dais, wands raised. They were surrounded. This was it. They were going to die here. But then, in a burst of light and sound, the Order of the Phoenix arrived. Sirius, Remus, Tonks, Mad-Eye Moody, and several others materialized in the chamber. They immediately engaged the Death Eaters, spells flying in every direction. Harry, get out of here, Sirius shouted, dueling 2 Death Eaters at once. But Harry couldn't move. He was rooted to the spot, watching as the battle raged around them. Hermione grabbed his arm, trying to pull him toward an exit. Then Harry saw it. Bellatrix was advancing on Sirius, her wand raised. Sirius, watch out, Harry screamed. But it was too late. Bellatrix's spell hit Sirius square in the chest. For a moment, he seemed to freeze. Then, slowly, he fell backward. Toward the veil. No, Harry roared. He watched in horror as his godfather disappeared through the ancient archway. Gone. Just like that. The one person who'd truly understood him, who'd been like a father to him. Gone. Hermione's arms wrapped around Harry, holding him back as he tried to lunge toward the veil. Harry, no. You can't. He's gone. Let me go, Harry sobbed. I have to. He's gone, Hermione repeated, her own voice breaking. Harry, please. Bellatrix was laughing, that horrible cackling laugh. Something inside Harry snapped. He broke free from Hermione's grip and took off after Bellatrix. She was fleeing the chamber, heading back toward the main atrium. Harry, wait, Hermione called, running after him. Harry didn't wait. He couldn't. All he could see was Sirius falling. All he could hear was Bellatrix's laughter. He chased her through corridor after corridor, rage fueling his every step. They burst into the main atrium. Bellatrix was heading for the fireplaces, about to escape. Harry raised his wand. Crucio, he shouted. The curse hit Bellatrix, and she screamed. But Harry didn't feel the satisfaction he'd expected. He just felt empty. You have to mean it. Potter, Bellatrix taunted, getting to her feet. You have to really want to cause pain. Before Harry could cast again, Voldemort appeared. He materialized in the center of the atrium, his red eyes fixed on Harry. Terror unlike anything Harry had ever known seized him. So weak, Voldemort hissed. So foolish. Did you really think you could defy me? Harry tried to run, but his legs wouldn't move. Voldemort raised his wand. This was it. This was how he died. Then, Hermione was there. She threw herself in front of Harry, her wand raised. Get away from him. Hermione, no, Harry gasped. How noble, Voldemort said mockingly. The mudblood willing to die for her beloved. Very well. Avada. No, a powerful voice rang out. Dumbledore appeared in a flash of flames. His wand was already moving, casting spells so fast Harry could barely track them. Voldemort was forced to defend himself, abandoning his attack on Hermione. Take Harry and go, Dumbledore commanded without taking his eyes off Voldemort. Hermione grabbed Harry's hand, pulling him toward the fireplaces. Harry's mind was reeling. Sirius was dead. Voldemort had almost killed Hermione. Everything was falling apart. They made it back to Hogwarts through the flow network. The others were already there, battered and bruised but alive. Ron had a broken nose. Ginny's ankle was twisted. Neville looked like he'd been through hell. But they were alive. Harry collapsed on the floor of Dumbledore's office. He couldn't process what had happened. Couldn't accept that Sirius was gone. That it was his fault. Hermione knelt beside him, her arms wrapping around him. I'm so sorry, she whispered. Harry, I'm so sorry. Harry clung to her. She was solid, real, alive. She hadn't died. That was something. That had to be enough. The others quietly left, giving them privacy. Harry buried his face in Hermione's shoulder and finally, let himself break. Great racking sobs tore through him. And Hermione held him through all of it, murmuring words of comfort, her own tears soaking into his hair. It's my fault, Harry choked out. I led us there. I got him killed. No, Hermione said firmly. Bellatrix killed him. Voldemort set the trap. You were trying to save someone you loved. That's not wrong. But you warned me, Harry said. You said it might be a trap and I didn't listen. Because you're loyal and brave and you couldn't bear the thought of Sirius suffering, Hermione said. Those aren't flaws. Harry. Those are the things I love about you. Harry pulled back to look at her. Her face was streaked with tears, her hair a mess. But her eyes were steady. Certain. Full of love. I almost lost you tonight, Harry said hoarsely. When he was going to. But he didn't, Hermione interrupted. I'm here. We're both here. You stepped in front of me, Harry said, fresh tears spilling down his cheeks. You were going to let him kill you to save me. Of course I was, Hermione said simply. I love you. I'd do anything to protect you. Don't, Harry said desperately. Don't ever do that again. I can't. Hermione. I can't lose you. I can't. Hermione cupped his face in her hands. You won't lose me. I promise. You can't promise that, Harry said. Not with a war coming. Not with Voldemort. Then we'll fight, Hermione said fiercely. Together. We'll train and prepare and we'll fight. And we'll survive. Both of us. Harry wanted to believe her. Wanted to have her certainty. But the prophecy's words echoed in his mind. Either must die at the hand of the other. One of them had to die. Him or Voldemort. There's something I need to tell you, Harry said quietly. About the prophecy. He explained what he'd heard. About being marked as Voldemort's equal. About the power the Dark Lord knew not. About the fact that one of them had to kill the other. Hermione listened in silence. When he finished, she was quiet for a long moment. Then we make sure you're the one who survives, she said finally. Hermione. No, she said firmly. I won't accept any other outcome. You're going to live, Harry. You're going to defeat him. And then we're going to have the future we've talked about. What if I can't? Harry whispered. You can't, Hermione said. Because you have something he doesn't. What? Love, Hermione said. Real love. The kind that makes you strong instead of weak. The kind that gives you something worth fighting for. She kissed him then. Soft and sweet and full of promise. Harry kissed her back, pouring all his fear and grief and desperate hope into it. When they finally pulled apart, Harry felt fractionally steadier. The pain of losing Sirius was still there, would always be there. But Hermione's presence, her love, it made the burden bearable. I love you, Harry said. More than anything. I love you too, Hermione replied. And we're going to get through this. I promise. Dumbledore returned several hours later. He looked tired, older than Harry had ever seen him. The headmaster explained that Voldemort had fled after their duel. That the Ministry had finally been forced to acknowledge his return. That everything was about to change. "I am sorry for your loss, Harry," Dumbledore said gently. "Sirius was a good man. A brave man. He would not want you to blame yourself." "But it is my fault," Harry said dully. "It is Voldemort's fault," Dumbledore corrected. "He is the one who set this tragedy in motion. You must not let guilt consume you." Easier said than done. But Harry nodded anyway. Dumbledore's gaze shifted to Hermione, who was still sitting close to Harry. "Miss Granger, your loyalty and courage tonight were extraordinary. You have my deepest respect." Hermione inclined her head. "I was just doing what anyone would do for someone they love." "Not anyone," Dumbledore said quietly. "True love, the kind willing to sacrifice everything, is rare and precious. I suspect it will prove crucial in the battles to come." The next few days passed in a blur. The school was buzzing with news of the battle at the Ministry. The Daily Prophet had finally printed the truth about Voldemort's return. Students looked at Harry with a mixture of awe and fear. Harry barely noticed. He moved through his classes like a ghost. Ate meals without tasting them. Went through the motions of living without really being present. Hermione stayed by his side through all of it. She didn't try to force him to talk or feel better. She just was there. A constant presence. An anchor in the storm. On their last night at Hogwarts before summer break, Hermione found Harry sitting by the lake. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. "Mind if I join you?" she asked softly. Harry shook his head. Hermione sat beside him, close enough that their shoulders touched. "How are you doing?" she asked after a moment. "I don't know," Harry admitted. "Some moments I feel okay. And then I remember he's gone and it hits me all over again." "That's normal," Hermione said. "Grief isn't linear. It comes in waves." They sat in silence for a while, watching the sun disappear below the horizon. Stars began to appear in the darkening sky. "I'm scared," Harry said quietly. "Of what's coming. Of the war. Of losing more people I care about." "I'm scared too," Hermione admitted. "But Harry, we can't let fear paralyze us. We have to keep moving forward." "How?" Harry asked. "How do you keep going when everything feels hopeless?" Hermione took his hand, lacing their fingers together. "You find something worth fighting for. Something that makes the struggle meaningful." "Like what?" Harry asked. Hermione turned to face him. "Like us. Like the future we could have together. Like the world we want to build. A world where people like Voldemort can't hurt innocent people anymore." Harry looked at her, really looked at her. In the fading light, she looked almost ethereal. Beautiful and brave and utterly certain. "When did you get so wise?" he asked. Hermione smiled. "I've always been wise. You just didn't notice." Harry laughed. It felt strange, foreign, but also good. "I noticed." "Good," Hermione said. Then her expression grew serious. "Harry, I know this summer is going to be hard. Being away from Hogwarts, dealing with your grief. But I'll write to you every day. And when we come back next year, we'll start preparing in earnest. We'll make ourselves stronger, better, ready for whatever comes." "Together?" Harry asked. "Always together," Hermione confirmed. Harry pulled her close, kissing her forehead. "I don't know what I'd do without you." "Lucky you'll never have to find out," Hermione said. They sat there until the stars filled the sky. And for the first time since Sirius's death, Harry felt something other than despair. He felt hope. Fragile and tentative, but hope nonetheless. The war was coming. Darkness was gathering. But Harry had Hermione. And that, he was beginning to realize, might be enough to tip the scales. Summer at Privet Drive was worse than Harry had ever experienced. The Dursleys were terrified of him now, keeping their distance after members of the Order had delivered him home with explicit warnings about his treatment. But the physical distance didn't make things better. It just left Harry alone with his grief. Sirius was gone. The truth of it hit Harry anew every morning when he woke. His godfather, the one person who'd understood what it was like to be an orphan, who'd offered him a real home, was dead. And it was Harry's fault. The only thing that kept Harry from drowning in despair was Hermione's letters. True to her word, she wrote every single day. Sometimes multiple times a day. Her letters were lifelines, filled with encouragement and plans for the future and reminders that he wasn't alone. Harry treasured each one. He kept them in a box under his bed, reading them over and over when the darkness threatened to overwhelm him. Hermione wrote about her summer with her parents, about the books she was reading to prepare for their 6th year, about how much she missed him. But more than that, she wrote about love. About how proud she was of him. About how strong he was. About their future together. Her words were a balm to his wounded soul. Harry wrote back just as frequently. He told her things he'd never told anyone else. About his nightmares. About the guilt that consumed him. About his fears for the coming war. And Hermione, brilliant, compassionate Hermione, never judged him. She just listened, understood, and loved him through it all. 3 weeks into summer, Hermione's letter contained unexpected news. Dumbledore had arranged for Harry to leave the Dursleys early. He'd be spending the rest of summer at the Burrow with the Weasleys. And Hermione would be there too. Harry's heart soared at the news. He'd see her again. Actually see her, not just words on parchment. He could hardly contain his excitement as he packed his trunk. The Order member who came to collect him was Tonks. Her hair was a subdued brown, and she seemed more serious than Harry remembered. The battle at the Ministry had changed everyone. Ready to go, Harry? She asked with a small smile. More than ready, Harry confirmed. The journey to the Burrow passed quickly. Harry's anticipation grew with each passing mile. When they finally arrived, the crooked house standing proudly against the evening sky. Harry felt something loosen in his chest. The front door burst open before they'd even reached it. Ron came barreling out, grinning widely. Harry, mate, finally. They embraced briefly, awkwardly, the way teenage boys do. But Harry could feel Ron's genuine happiness at seeing him. Hermione's inside, Ron said, waggling his eyebrows. Been pacing for the past hour waiting for you. Harry's heart skipped a beat. He grabbed his trunk and practically ran into the house. And there she was, standing in the kitchen, her bushy hair pulled back in a ponytail, wearing a simple summer dress. She looked beautiful. Harry, she breathed. Harry dropped his trunk. Hermione crossed the room in 3 quick steps. And then they were kissing, weeks of separation and longing pouring out in that single moment. Harry wrapped his arms around her waist, lifting her slightly off the ground. Hermione's hands tangled in his hair, holding him close. Ahem, Mrs. Weasley's voice interrupted. Perhaps save some of that for later, dears. They broke apart, both blushing furiously. Mrs. Weasley was smiling though, her eyes warm. It's good to see you. Harry. Come, sit. I've made dinner. The evening was wonderful. Harry sat between Hermione and Ron, surrounded by the chaotic warmth of the Weasley family. Ginny kept shooting knowing looks at Harry and Hermione. Fred and George regaled them with stories of their joke shop's success. Mr. Weasley asked about Harry's summer. And through it all, Hermione's hand rested on Harry's thigh under the table, a constant reminder that she was there. That night, after everyone had gone to bed, Harry snuck down to the kitchen for water. He found Hermione already there, sitting at the table with a cup of tea. Couldn't sleep? Harry asked softly. Wanted to see you, Hermione admitted. Properly. Without everyone watching, Harry sat beside her, taking her hand. I missed you so much. I missed you too, Hermione said. Your letters, Harry, some of them broke my heart. Sorry, Harry said. Don't apologize, Hermione said firmly. I'm glad you felt like you could share that with me. I just wish I could have been there with you. You were, Harry said. Your letters kept me going. Knowing you were thinking about me, that you cared. It made all the difference. Hermione squeezed his hand. I love you so much. I love you too, Harry said. They sat like that for a long time, just being together. Eventually, Hermione stifled a yawn. We should get some sleep, Harry said reluctantly. Walk me upstairs, Hermione asked. Harry did, pausing outside the room she shared with Ginny. Good night, he whispered, stealing one more kiss. Good night, Hermione murmured against his lips. The rest of summer passed in a blur of happiness. Harry, Hermione, and Ron spent their days playing Quidditch, exploring the surrounding countryside, and preparing for their NEWT years. Hermione had created detailed study schedules for all of them, color-coded and laminated. Ron groaned, but Harry found it comforting. Planning for the future meant believing they had won. Harry and Hermione stole moments alone whenever they could. Early morning walks before anyone else woke. Late evening conversations by the pond behind the house. Stolen kisses in the garden shed. These moments were precious, sacred. They both knew that once they returned to Hogwarts, once the reality of the war set in, things would be different. One afternoon in late August, Harry and Hermione were sitting under a tree by the pond. Hermione was reading, her head resting on Harry's shoulder. Harry was watching dragonflies skim across the water, feeling more at peace than he had in months. "Harry, can I ask you something?" Hermione said, closing her book. "Always," Harry replied. "What do you think happens after the war? Assuming we win." Harry considered the question. He'd been so focused on survival that he hadn't thought much beyond defeating Voldemort. "I don't know," he admitted. "What do you think?" Hermione was quiet for a moment. "I think I'd like to work at the Ministry. Department of Magical Law Enforcement maybe. Help reform the laws around magical creatures and Muggle-borns. Make sure what happened, what Voldemort tried to do, can never happen again." "That sounds perfect for you," Harry said warmly. "You'd be brilliant at it." "What about you?" Hermione asked. Harry shrugged. "I used to think I'd want to be an Auror. But now, I don't know. Maybe I've had enough of fighting dark wizards." "You don't have to decide now," Hermione said gently. "But Harry, whatever you choose, I want to be there. With you." Harry turned to look at her. "You mean that?" "Of course I do," Hermione said. "I love you. I want a future with you. A real future. After the war. I want that too," Harry said. Then hesitated. "But Hermione, the prophecy." "I don't care about the prophecy," Hermione interrupted. "We're going to make our own future. Together." Harry kissed her, slow and deep. When they pulled apart, both breathing heavily, Harry rested his forehead against hers. "Together," he agreed. The day before they left for Hogwarts, Dumbledore arrived at the Burrow. He requested a private meeting with Harry. They sat in the Weasleys' cluttered living room, the headmaster's expression grave. "This year will be different. Harry," Dumbledore began. "Voldemort is operating openly now. The war is truly beginning. I will be asking much of you in the months to come." "What do you need me to do?" Harry asked. "First, you must continue your studies," Dumbledore said. "Knowledge will be your greatest weapon. But beyond that, I will be sharing certain memories with you. Memories of Tom Riddle, his past, his choices. You must understand your enemy if you are to defeat him." Harry nodded. "I'll do whatever it takes." "I know you will," Dumbledore said. Then his expression softened. "I understand you and Miss Granger have grown quite close." Harry felt heat rise in his cheeks. "Yes, sir. Love is powerful magic, Harry," Dumbledore said. "The strongest magic of all. It is also dangerous. Voldemort will not hesitate to use those you care about against you." Fear clenched Harry's stomach. "Are you saying I should stay away from Hermione?" "No," Dumbledore said. "I am saying you must protect her. And she must protect you. Love is not a weakness, despite what Voldemort believes. It is your greatest strength. But you must be careful. Vigilant. The road ahead will test you both in ways you cannot imagine." "We'll be ready," Harry said with more confidence than he felt. Dumbledore studied him for a long moment. "I believe you will be." The Hogwarts Express journey the next day was bittersweet. Harry sat in a compartment with Hermione, Ron, Ginny, Neville, and Luna. They were all older now, changed by what they'd experienced at the Ministry. But they were together, united. Hermione sat pressed against Harry's side, her hand in his. Ron and Ginny were engaged in a heated debate about Quidditch tactics. Neville was showing Luna his new plant specimens. It felt normal, comfortable, like maybe, just maybe, they could survive what was coming. When they arrived at Hogwarts, the castle felt different. There were new security measures. Teachers patrolling the corridors. An air of tension that hadn't been there before. The war had arrived. The sorting ceremony felt rushed. The welcoming feast lacked its usual warmth. And when Dumbledore stood to address the school, his words were sobering. "We live in dark times," the headmaster said. "Lord Voldemort has returned. War is upon us. But we must not let fear dictate our actions. We must remain united, strong, true to the values that Hogwarts represents. Only together can we hope to prevail against the darkness." The Great Hall was silent. Harry felt Hermione's hand find his under the table. He squeezed it, drawing strength from her presence. Classes started the next day. Harry, Ron, and Hermione were all taking NEWT-level courses. The workload was intense, but Harry found himself genuinely engaged in his studies for the first time. He understood now that knowledge was power. That every spell he learned, every bit of magical theory he mastered, brought him one step closer to being ready to face Voldemort. His private lessons with Dumbledore began in the second week of term. They met in the headmaster's office, using the pensieve to explore Tom Riddle's past. Harry learned about Riddle's childhood at the orphanage, his time at Hogwarts, his obsession with immortality and power. He fears death above all else, Dumbledore explained. It is his greatest weakness. Harry absorbed every detail, understanding Voldemort, seeing him not as an unstoppable force but as a man driven by fear, made him seem less terrifying somehow. More defeatable. Between classes, homework, DA meetings, and his lessons with Dumbledore, Harry barely had time to breathe. But he made time for Hermione. Always for Hermione. They studied together in the library, took walks around the grounds, stole kisses in empty classrooms. These moments kept Harry grounded, reminded him what he was fighting for. One evening in mid-October, Harry and Hermione were in the room of requirement after a DA meeting. The other students had left, but they'd stayed behind to practice more advanced spells. Try again, Hermione encouraged. Focus on the feeling of warmth, safety, love. Harry closed his eyes. He thought about Hermione, about Ron and the Weasleys, about the future they might have if they survived. Expecto Patronum. His stag burst forth, more powerful than ever. It galloped around the room, silver and luminous. Hermione clapped delightedly. Brilliant, she said. Your Patronus is getting stronger. It's because of you, Harry said. You're my happy thought. Always. Hermione's expression softened. You're mine too. They practiced for another hour. Hermione's otter Patronus danced alongside Harry's stag. It was beautiful, perfect, a representation of their bond. As they were leaving, Hermione stopped Harry in the corridor. I've been thinking, she said. About what? Harry asked. About the Horcruxes, Hermione said quietly. She'd figured out what Dumbledore was showing Harry in their private lessons. Hermione always figured things out. Harry glanced around nervously. Not here. They found an empty classroom. Once inside with privacy charms in place. Hermione continued. Dumbledore thinks Voldemort created multiple Horcruxes, doesn't he? Harry nodded. At least 6, maybe 7. And you have to destroy them all before you can kill him, Hermione said. Yes, Harry confirmed. Hermione took a deep breath. Then we need to start planning. We need to figure out what they are. Where they might be. How to destroy them. We, Harry repeated. Of course we, Hermione said firmly. Harry, I'm not letting you do this alone. We're partners. In everything. Harry wanted to argue. Wanted to protect her from this burden. But he knew it was useless. Hermione had made up her mind. Okay, he said. Together, they spent the next several weeks researching. Hermione pulled every book on Horcruxes she could find. They discussed theories late into the night. Tried to piece together the puzzle Dumbledore had started revealing. The diary Harry had destroyed in second year was one. Dumbledore had destroyed a ring over the summer. That left 4 more. Possibly 5 if Voldemort had achieved his goal of 7. We need a plan, Hermione said one night. They were in the common room, the fire burning low. Everyone else had gone to bed. After Hogwarts, after we graduate, we need to find and destroy the remaining Horcruxes. That could take years, Harry pointed out. Then we take years, Hermione said. However long it takes. Harry studied her face. She looked determined, fierce, completely committed to this path. To him, you're amazing, you know that. Hermione smiled. I do my best. Harry kissed her. They'd become bolder about their affection as the year progressed. Most of Gryffindor knew they were together now. Some of the other houses too. Harry had stopped caring what people thought. Life was too short. The war was too real. He loved Hermione, and he wasn't going to hide it. As November turned to December, Harry noticed changes in Dumbledore. The headmaster seemed weaker. His injured hand, blackened from destroying the ring Horcrux, wasn't healing properly. It worried Harry. During one of their lessons, Harry finally asked about it. Sir, your hand, is it getting worse? Dumbledore looked down at his withered hand. I am afraid so. The curse that protected the Horcrux was particularly nasty. Severus has contained it for now, but it is only a matter of time. How much time? Harry asked, his throat tight. A year perhaps. Maybe less, Dumbledore said calmly. Horror flooded through Harry. But you can't. I am an old man. Harry, Dumbledore said gently. I have lived a long and full life. When my time comes, I will be ready. I'm not ready, Harry said. His voice sounded young even to his own ears. I need you. You have everything you need already, Dumbledore assured him. You have courage, intelligence, loyal friends, and most importantly, you have love. That will be enough. Harry wanted to argue, but what could he say? That Dumbledore couldn't die because Harry needed him. That wasn't fair. But life, Harry was learning, wasn't fair. He told Hermione about it that night. She held him while he processed the news. We'll be okay, she murmured. Whatever happens, we'll face it together. I'm scared, Harry admitted. Me too, Hermione said. But being scared doesn't mean we can't be brave. Harry pulled back to look at her. When did you become the brave one? I've always been brave, Hermione said. I just hid it better than you. Harry laughed despite everything. I love you. I love you too, Hermione said. Always. Christmas came and went. Harry and Hermione spent it at Hogwarts, along with Ron and a handful of other students. They exchanged gifts by the fire. Kissed under the enchanted mistletoe. Pretended for a few precious days that everything was normal. But normal was an illusion. The war was escalating. Death Eater attacks were becoming more frequent. The Daily Prophet reported casualties almost daily. The weight of what was coming pressed down on all of them. On New Year's Eve, Harry stood at the astronomy tower with Hermione. They watched fireworks explode over Hogsmeade, magical colors painting the night sky. New year, Hermione said softly. New possibilities. New challenges, Harry added. Those two, Hermione agreed. She turned to face him. Harry, I want you to promise me something. Anything, Harry said. Promise me that no matter what happens this year, no matter how dark things get, you won't give up. You'll keep fighting. For yourself. For us. For the future we're going to have. I promise, Harry said. As long as you promise the same thing. I promise, Hermione said. They sealed the promise with a kiss as the clock struck midnight. A new year. A new chapter. And whatever it brought, they would face it together. January brought bitter cold and mounting tension to Hogwarts. Death Eater attacks had escalated over the holiday break. Entire families had disappeared. The Muggle Prime Minister had been forced to acknowledge strange occurrences plaguing Britain. The wizarding world was at war. Harry threw himself into his studies with renewed intensity. Every lesson with Dumbledore revealed more about Voldemort's past. More clues about the Horcruxes. The locket that had belonged to Slytherin. The cup from Hufflepuff. Nagini the snake. And something of Ravenclaws, though what exactly remained a mystery. Hermione worked alongside Harry, researching tirelessly. She'd compiled detailed notes on every Horcrux, every piece of information they'd gathered. Her organizational skills were invaluable. But more than that, her presence kept Harry grounded. Sane. We need to talk about what happens after graduation, Hermione said one evening in late January. They were in the room of requirement, ostensibly studying but really just being together. What do you mean? Harry asked, though he suspected he knew. The Horcruxes, Hermione said. We can't hunt them while we're still in school. Too many restrictions. Too much oversight. But after we graduate in June, we go after them, Harry finished. Exactly, Hermione said. But Harry, we need Ron too. The three of us. We're strongest together. Harry nodded. Ron had proven himself brave and loyal time and again. Have you talked to him about it? Not yet, Hermione admitted. I wanted to discuss it with you first. But I think he'll want to come. He will, Harry said with certainty. Ron would never let us do this alone. They told Ron the next day. His reaction was exactly what Harry had expected. Obviously I'm coming, Ron said, looking offended they'd even questioned it. You two aren't going off on some dangerous quest without me. What kind of best friend would I be? The kind that survives to have a future, Hermione said quietly. Ron's expression sobered. We all survive. Or none of us do. That's how this works. Harry felt emotion tighten his throat. Thanks, mate. Don't get all mushy on me, Ron said, but he was grinning. So, where do we start? They spent the next several months planning. Hermione created detailed strategies for locating each Horcrux. Ron provided tactical insights from his chess-playing mind. Harry contributed what he'd learned from Dumbledore. Together, they began to form a real plan. But beneath the planning, beneath the preparation, Harry felt time running out. Dumbledore was getting weaker. His blackened hand seemed to be spreading. The headmaster moved more slowly now. Looked more tired. Harry knew with growing certainty that Dumbledore wouldn't survive the year. In March, Dumbledore summoned Harry to his office. I believe I have located another Horcrux, the headmaster said without preamble. Harry's pulse quickened. Where? A cave by the sea, Dumbledore explained. A place Tom Riddle visited as a boy. Where he tormented 2 children from his orphanage. I believe he hid something precious there. When do we go? Harry asked. Soon, Dumbledore said. But Harry, this will be dangerous. The protections will be formidable. I will need your help. I'll do whatever you need, Harry said. I know you will, Dumbledore said. His blue eyes were serious behind his spectacles. But there is something you must promise me first. No matter what happens in that cave, no matter what I say or do, you must make me continue drinking whatever potion guards the Horcrux. Even if I beg you to stop. Do you understand? Dread coiled in Harry's stomach. Sir, promise me. Harry, Dumbledore insisted. I promise, Harry said reluctantly. Harry told Hermione about the planned trip that night. Her reaction was immediate and fierce. I'm coming with you. Hermione. Dumbledore specifically asked for me. I don't care, Hermione interrupted. Harry. Dumbledore is dying. What if something happens to him in that cave? What if you need help? I'm not letting you do this alone. It could be dangerous, Harry warned. Everything we do is dangerous, Hermione countered. I'm coming. That's final. Harry looked at her, at the determination blazing in her brown eyes. He knew better than to argue when Hermione had made up her mind. Okay. But we don't tell Ron. He'll insist on coming too, and someone needs to stay here. Just in case. Hermione nodded reluctantly. Agreed. They left for the cave on a cold evening in late March. Dumbledore apparated them to a remote stretch of coastline. Cliffs loomed above them, waves crashed against rocks below. The entrance to the cave was hidden, accessible only by swimming through icy water. Hermione cast warming charms on all of them before they dove in. The water was still shockingly cold. Harry's lungs burned as they swam through darkness. Finally, they emerged in a vast underground cavern. This way, Dumbledore said, his wand lit. He led them along a narrow path. In the center of the cavern was a lake. Black and still, unnaturally smooth, and in the middle of the lake, on a small island, stood a stone basin filled with glowing green liquid. The Horcrux is in there, Dumbledore said. Hidden beneath the potion. But the only way to retrieve it is to drink the potion entirely. Then I'll drink it, Harry said immediately. No, Dumbledore said firmly. I will. You must force me to continue, no matter what happens. Professor, Hermione started. This is not a discussion. Miss Granger, Dumbledore said. His tone left no room for argument. Getting to the island required blood. Harry cut his hand, letting drops fall into the lake. A ghostly boat appeared. The 3 of them climbed in. As they glided across the water, Harry noticed movement beneath the surface. Pale shapes. Bodies. In fury, Dumbledore said quietly. Do not touch the water. They reached the island. Dumbledore conjured a crystal goblet and dipped it into the basin. The green liquid gleamed ominously. Remember your promise, Harry. Then Dumbledore drank. The effect was immediate and horrifying. The headmaster gasped, his face contorting in pain. No. Please, no more. Keep going, Harry said, his voice shaking. He refilled the goblet, hating himself. Hermione had tears streaming down her face. But she stood firm, supporting Harry as he forced Dumbledore to continue drinking. By the time the basin was empty, Dumbledore was barely conscious. He was muttering incoherently, clearly reliving some terrible memory. Harry reached into the empty basin and pulled out a locket. A gold locket with Slytherin's serpent mark. We've got it, Harry said. Professor, we can go now. But Dumbledore was calling for water. His voice was desperate, broken. Harry looked around frantically. The only water was the lake. Hermione met his eyes. I'll get it, she said. No. In fury, Harry started. But Hermione was already filling the goblet from the lake. The moment the water touched the surface, the inferi rose. Dozens of them. Pale, rotting hands reaching up. Incendio, Hermione shouted. Fire erupted from her wand. But there were too many. The inferi kept coming, climbing onto the island, reaching for them with cold, dead fingers. Harry joined Hermione, casting fire spells as fast as he could. But they were being overwhelmed. One of the inferi grabbed Harry's ankle. He felt himself being pulled toward the water. Then Dumbledore rose. Despite his weakened state, despite the poison still coursing through him, the headmaster raised his wand. A massive firestorm erupted. A ring of flames so intense the inferi were incinerated instantly. The lake itself seemed to burn. When the flames finally died, Dumbledore collapsed. Harry and Hermione caught him. Together, they managed to get him back to the boat. Back across the lake, back through the cave in the freezing water. They apparated directly to Hogsmeade. Hermione supported most of Dumbledore's weight, her face set with determination. They made their way up to the castle. To the hospital wing. Madame Pomfrey took one look at Dumbledore and paled. What happened? Poison, Hermione said. Dark magic. You need to help him. As Madame Pomfrey worked, Harry opened the locket. His hands were shaking. Inside was a note. To the Dark Lord. I know I will be dead long before you read this. But I want you to know that it was I who discovered your secret. I have stolen the real Horcrux and intend to destroy it as soon as I can. I face death in the hope that when you meet your match, you will be mortal once more. R.A.B. Harry's blood ran cold. It's not real, he said numbly. The Horcrux. It's fake. Hermione read the note over his shoulder. R.A.B. Who is that? I don't know, Harry said. But whoever they are, they took the real Horcrux. Which means we risked everything for nothing. Hermione took his hand. Not for nothing. We saved Dumbledore. And now we know someone else was fighting Voldemort. Someone who might have destroyed a Horcrux already. Harry wanted to believe her. But the disappointment was crushing. They'd come so close. And it had all been for nothing. Dumbledore recovered slowly over the next few weeks. But he was never quite the same. The potion had taken something from him. Left him diminished somehow. Harry felt the clock ticking faster. Time was running out. In April, Draco Malfoy made his move. Harry had noticed him acting strangely all year. Disappearing for hours. Looking pale and frightened. Hermione had theorized that Voldemort had given him a task. Something important. The night it happened, Harry was in the library with Hermione. An explosion rocked the castle. Screams echoed through the corridors. Death Eaters. In Hogwarts. The room of requirement, Hermione gasped. Malfoy must have found a way to let them in. They ran. Wands drawn. Other students were fleeing in panic. Teachers were trying to mount a defense. But the Death Eaters were everywhere. Casting curses. Destroying everything in their path. Harry and Hermione fought their way through the chaos. They found Dumbledore on the astronomy tower. Draco had him cornered, wand raised but trembling. Draco, you don't have to do this, Dumbledore said gently. I have to, Draco said. His voice was shaking. He'll kill my family if I don't. We can protect them, Dumbledore offered. You are not a killer. Draco. I can see it in you. For a moment, Draco wavered. His wand lowered slightly. But then other Death Eaters arrived. Bellatrix Lestrange, Fenrir Greyback, and Severus Snape. Harry and Hermione were hidden behind a statue. Frozen. Unable to help without revealing their presence. Severus, please, Dumbledore said. Not a plea. A command. Snape raised his wand. Avada Kedavra. Green light filled the tower. Dumbledore fell backward off the tower. And Harry felt something inside him break. He wanted to scream, to attack, but Hermione's hand clamped over his mouth. Her other arm wrapped around him, holding him back, keeping him silent as the Death Eaters fled. Only when they were gone did Hermione release him. Harry stumbled forward, looked over the edge of the tower. Saw Dumbledore's broken body far below. Saw students gathering. Saw the end of hope. No, Harry whispered. No, no, no. Hermione was crying, but she took Harry's hand. We have to go down. We have to. He's gone, Harry said. His voice sounded hollow. Dumbledore's gone. And Snape killed him. I know, Hermione said. Tears were streaming down her face. But Harry, we have to be strong. We have to. I can't, Harry interrupted. Hermione, I can't do this without him. Hermione grabbed his face, forcing him to look at her. Yes you can. You're Harry Potter. You're the chosen one. And you're going to defeat Voldemort. Because that's what Dumbledore trained you to do. That's what he died for. I'm not ready, Harry said. You are, Hermione insisted. You have me. You have Ron. You have everything Dumbledore taught you. And you have love. Remember, that's your power. The thing Voldemort can't understand. Harry looked at her tear-stained face. At the fierce determination in her eyes. At the love radiating from every part of her. And he found strength he didn't know he possessed. Okay, he said. Okay. They went down together. Faced the gathered students and teachers. Told them what they'd witnessed. Watched as grief rippled through the crowd. The funeral was held 3 days later. The entire wizarding world seemed to attend. Harry stood with Hermione and Ron. Listened as person after person spoke about Dumbledore's greatness. His wisdom. His courage. But Harry barely heard any of it. His mind was already moving forward. To what came next. To the Horcrux hunt. To the final confrontation with Voldemort. After the funeral, Harry found a quiet moment with Hermione and Ron. I'm not coming back next year, he said. Neither of them looked surprised. We know, Hermione said. We're coming with you, Ron added. It's going to be dangerous, Harry warned. We'll be hunted. We might not survive. We know that too, Hermione said. She took Harry's hand. But we're in this together. All three of us. Until the end. Until the end, Ron agreed. Harry looked at his two best friends. The people he loved most in the world. Thank you, he said. For everything. That night, Harry and Hermione sat by the lake. The same spot where they'd sat so many times before. Where they'd fallen in love. Where they'd made promises about the future. I'm scared, Harry admitted. Not for me. For you. For what might happen to you because of me. I'm scared too, Hermione said. But Harry, I'd rather die fighting by your side than live without you. Don't say that, Harry said. It's true, Hermione insisted. You're my everything. My best friend. My love. My future. Whatever happens, wherever this journey takes us. I want to be with you. Harry pulled her close. Kissed her deeply. I love you, he murmured against her lips. I love you too, Hermione said. They sat there until the sun rose. Until a new day dawned. A day without Dumbledore. A day closer to war. But they faced it together. And somehow, that made all the difference. The end of term came quickly. Students left Hogwarts, many of them for the last time. The castle felt empty. Haunted. But Harry, Hermione, and Ron stayed until the last possible moment. Preparing. Planning. Gathering supplies for the journey ahead. On their last night at Hogwarts. Harry stood in the Gryffindor common room. So many memories. So much history. This place had been his first real home. But it was time to leave. Time to face what was coming. Hermione appeared beside him. Ready? No, Harry admitted. But I don't think I ever will be. Then we'll be not ready together, Hermione said. She took his hand. Come on. Ron's waiting. We have Horcruxes to find. They left Hogwarts at dawn. 3 friends on an impossible quest. The odds were against them. The enemy was powerful. Death waited around every corner. But they had each other. They had love. And sometimes, that was enough. The tent was cold and damp, and smelled faintly of mildew. Harry lay awake in his sleeping bag, listening to the rain pound against the canvas roof. Beside him, Hermione slept fitfully, occasionally murmuring in her dreams. Ron snored from the other side of the tent. They'd been on the run for 3 weeks now. 3 weeks of searching. 3 weeks of failure. Harry carefully extracted himself from his sleeping bag, trying not to wake Hermione. He needed air. Space to think. The locket around his neck felt heavier than it should, a constant reminder of their burden. The fake Horcrux from the cave, the one that had cost Dumbledore so much. Harry wore it as penance. As motivation. Outside, the forest was dark and silent. They'd camped in a different location almost every night, never staying anywhere long enough to be found. Hermione had cast protective enchantments around their site. But Harry still felt exposed. Vulnerable. Couldn't sleep. Hermione's voice came from behind him. Harry turned. She stood in the tent opening, wrapped in a blanket. Her hair was wild from sleep, her face pale in the moonlight. Beautiful. Just thinking, Harry said. Hermione came to stand beside him. About everything. R.A.B. The real Horcrux. Where to even start looking? They'd spent weeks trying to identify R.A.B. Hermione had suggested Regulus Arcturus Black, Sirius's younger brother. It made sense. A black family member who'd turned against Voldemort. But confirming it, finding out what he'd done with the real locket, that was proving impossible. "We'll figure it out," Hermione said. She leaned against Harry, and he wrapped his arm around her. "We always do. Do we?" Harry asked. "Because right now it feels like we're just wandering aimlessly." "We're not aimless," Hermione insisted. "We're methodical. We're eliminating possibilities. Building our knowledge base." Harry smiled despite himself. "You sound like you're writing an essay." "Old habits," Hermione said with a small laugh. Then her expression grew serious. "Harry, I know this is hard. I know it feels hopeless sometimes. But we can't give up." "I won't," Harry promised. "As long as I have you. I won't give up." Hermione tilted her face up. Harry kissed her, soft and lingering. These moments, stolen and precious, kept him going. Reminded him what he was fighting for. "Come back to bed," Hermione murmured. "We have a long day tomorrow." They were planning to break into the Ministry of Magic. Hermione had discovered that Dolores Umbridge had somehow acquired Slytherin's locket. She was wearing it openly, not knowing what it really was. They needed to steal it back. Destroy it. The plan was risky. Insane, really. But they were out of options. Every other lead had gone cold. This was their best chance. The next morning, they prepared carefully. Hermione had stolen hair from 3 ministry workers during a reconnaissance mission. Using Polyjuice Potion, they would infiltrate the building. Find Umbridge. Take the Horcrux. Remember, Hermione said as they prepared to apparate. We stay calm. We act natural. We don't draw attention to ourselves. Easy for you to say, Ron muttered. You're not about to impersonate someone who works in magical maintenance. Harry was going to be Runcorn, a high-ranking ministry official. Hermione would be Mafalda Hopkirk. Ron was Cattermole. They'd rehearsed their cover stories. Memorized their target's mannerisms. But Harry's stomach was still churning with nerves. They took the Polyjuice Potion and apparated to the ministry entrance. The transformation was as unpleasant as Harry remembered. His body stretched and shifted, becoming taller, broader. When it was over, he looked down at unfamiliar hands. This is so weird, Ron said in Cattermole's voice. Focus, Hermione commanded in Mafalda's crisp tones. We're on a schedule. They entered the ministry through the visitor's entrance. The atrium was crowded with workers arriving for the day. A massive statue dominated the center of the room. But unlike the fountain Harry remembered, this statue showed a witch and wizard sitting on thrones made of naked, contorted muggles. The inscription read, Magic is might. Harry felt sick. This was what Voldemort had done. Corrupted everything. Turned the ministry into a propaganda machine for pureblood supremacy. They split up as planned. Ron headed to magical maintenance. Hermione went to the courtrooms to scout. Harry made his way through the corridors, playing his part. People nodded to him respectfully. Some looked afraid. Runcorn was clearly not well liked. Harry found an empty office and used it as a base. Hermione had given him a communication mirror. He pulled it out, whispering her name. Her face appeared in the glass. I found her, Hermione said. Courtroom 10. She's prosecuting Muggle-borns. Rage flooded through Harry. Of course Umbridge had found a way to make the regime change work in her favor. I'm coming down. Be careful, Hermione warned. There are Dementors everywhere. Harry made his way to the courtrooms. The lower levels of the ministry were cold, oppressive. And Hermione was right. Dementors glided through the corridors. Harry felt their presence like ice in his veins. The happiness draining away, leaving only despair. He found courtroom 10. Through the small window in the door, he could see Umbridge sitting at a high desk. She was wearing the locket. And in front of her, trembling in chains, was a Muggle-born woman Harry didn't recognize. Your wand, please, Umbridge said in her sickly sweet voice. But I haven't done anything, the woman protested. I was born to Muggle parents, yes, but I've never used magic illegally. Magic is the gift of a pure bloodline, Umbridge said. For a Muggle born to wield it is theft. You will be stripped of your wand and sent to Azkaban. Harry couldn't take it anymore. He burst into the courtroom. Stop. Umbridge looked up, startled. Runcorn. What is the meaning of this? Harry drew his wand. Stupefy. Umbridge flew backward, hitting the wall. Confusion erupted in the courtroom. The other officials reached for their wands. But Hermione was already there, casting spells. Ron arrived moments later. Get the prisoners out, Harry shouted to Ron. Hermione, the locket. Hermione darted forward, yanking the chain from Umbridge's unconscious form. The locket gleamed in her hand. Got it. They ran. Behind them, alarms sounded. Shouts echoed through the corridors. They'd been discovered. This way, Ron called. He'd freed nearly a dozen Muggle-borns. They followed him toward the atrium. But Death Eaters were pouring in, blocking their escape. Harry fought desperately, casting stunning spells and shield charms. Hermione was beside him, her wand moving in complex patterns. The fireplaces, Hermione gasped. We need to get to the fireplaces. They fought their way across the atrium. Several of the freed prisoners fell. Harry wanted to help them but couldn't. They had to get out. Had to protect the Horcrux. Finally, they reached the fireplaces. Grimmauld Place, Harry shouted, throwing flow powder. He grabbed Hermione's hand. Ron grabbed his other one. They tumbled through the green flames together, landing in a heap in the drawing room of number 12. For a moment, they just lay there, breathing hard. The polyjuice potion was wearing off. Harry felt his body shifting back to normal. Did we really just do that? Ron asked. We did, Hermione confirmed. She held up the locket. And we got it. They spent the next hour securing the house, casting every protective charm Hermione could think of. The Ministry would be looking for them. Death Eaters would be hunting them. They needed to be careful. Once the house was secure, they gathered in the kitchen. The locket sat on the table between them. Dark, menacing, radiating malevolence. How do we destroy it? Ron asked. Basilisk venom, Hermione said. That's what destroyed the diary. Or fiendfire. But that's incredibly dangerous. Where do we get basilisk venom? Harry asked. The Chamber of Secrets, Hermione said. But we'd have to go back to Hogwarts. And that's impossible right now, Harry finished. So we hold on to it. Keep it safe until we can figure out how to destroy it. Over the next few days, they took turns wearing the locket. It seemed important to keep it close, to not let it out of their sight. But Harry quickly realized that was a mistake. The locket had an effect on whoever wore it. It amplified negative emotions, made everything seem darker, more hopeless. When Harry wore it, he obsessed over his failures. Over everyone he'd lost. Cedric, Sirius, Dumbledore. The weight of the prophecy pressed down on him. The certainty that he would die. When Ron wore it, he became moody. Withdrawn. He snapped at Hermione over small things. Questioned Harry's decisions. And when Hermione wore it, she became anxious. Paranoid. Convinced they were making mistakes. That they'd never succeed. After a particularly bad fight between Ron and Hermione, Harry made a decision. We're not wearing it anymore. We keep it in the bag. Under protective charms. But we don't touch it unless we have to. Agreed, Hermione said immediately. She looked exhausted. The locket had been draining her. Ron nodded sullenly. He'd been wearing it when the fight started. Harry knew it wasn't really his fault. They settled into an uneasy routine at Grimmauld Place. Hermione researched ways to destroy Horcruxes. Ron kept watch. Harry practiced defensive magic. They were preparing, training, getting stronger. But the isolation was wearing on all of them. They couldn't contact anyone, couldn't risk leading Death Eaters to their friends and family. They were alone. One night in late July, Harry found Hermione crying in the library. She was surrounded by books, her notes spread across multiple tables. But her shoulders were shaking with sobs. Hey, Harry said softly. What's wrong? Everything, Hermione choked out. Harry, we've been at this for 2 months. We have one Horcrux. One. And we don't even know how to destroy it. Meanwhile, Voldemort is taking over. People are dying. And we're just hiding. Harry pulled her into his arms. We're not hiding. We're preparing. Are we? Hermione asked. Or are we just too scared to do what needs to be done? You're not scared, Harry said firmly. You're the bravest person I know. I am scared, Hermione admitted. I'm terrified. Of failing. Of losing you. Of dying without making a difference. Harry cupped her face. You've already made a difference. Hermione, you're the only reason we've gotten this far. Your planning, your intelligence, your strength. Without you, I'd be lost. We're supposed to do this together, Hermione said. But what if I'm not enough? What if my best isn't good enough? It is, Harry insisted. You are enough. More than enough. He kissed her, poured all his love and conviction into it. Hermione kissed him back desperately. Like she was drowning and he was air. They made love that night for the first time. In the library surrounded by books and research. It was fumbling and awkward and perfect. Afterward, they lay tangled together on a conjured mattress. Hermione's head on Harry's chest. His fingers tracing patterns on her bare shoulder. I love you, Hermione whispered. No matter what happens. I need you to know that. I love you too, Harry said. Always. In August, they had a breakthrough. Hermione discovered that Regulus Black's house elf creature was still alive. Still living at Grimmauld Place. And when they questioned him, he told them the truth. Regulus had indeed stolen the locket. Had replaced it with a fake. But he'd been killed before he could destroy it. He'd ordered Creature to complete the task. But Creature had failed. The locket was still at Grimmauld Place. Hidden in Sirius's room. They tore the house apart looking for it. Finally, after hours of searching, Hermione found it. In a drawer full of Sirius's old things. The real Horcrux. We have it, she breathed. Harry, we actually have it. Now they had 2 Horcruxes. But they still couldn't destroy them. The frustration was maddening. They were so close. But not close enough. September brought news of the outside world. The Daily Prophet, now completely controlled by the Death Eaters, reported that Hogwarts was reopening. Under new management. Snape was headmaster. The Carrows were teaching. It was a propaganda machine now. Just like the Ministry. We should go back, Ron said one night. Free the students. Fight back. We can't, Hermione said. Not until we finish this. Not until we destroy the Horcruxes. People are suffering, Ron argued. While we sit here doing nothing. We're not doing nothing, Harry said. But even he was starting to doubt. Starting to wonder if they'd made the right choice. The tension between them grew. Made worse by the presence of the Horcruxes. Even sealed in a bag, they could feel the dark magic. Feel it pressing down on them. In October, everything came to a head. They'd been arguing all day. About strategy. About next steps. About whether they should even continue. The Horcruxes made everything worse. Made small disagreements feel insurmountable. Maybe we should just give up, Ron said bitterly. He'd insisted on holding the locket bag. Despite knowing better. Maybe this is pointless. Don't say that, Hermione snapped. We've come too far to quit now. Have we? Ron challenged. Because from where I'm standing, we're no closer to winning than we were 3 months ago. Then leave, Hermione said. Her voice was cold, hard. If you don't believe in this, if you don't believe in us, then just leave. Maybe I will, Ron shot back. Ron. Hermione, stop, Harry said. The Horcruxes are affecting you. Both of you. Just calm down. But they were beyond calming down. The fight escalated. Became ugly. Things were said that couldn't be taken back. And then Ron actually left. He grabbed his pack, stormed out of the house, and disapparated. The silence he left behind was deafening. Hermione stood frozen, staring at the spot where Ron had been. Tears streamed down her face. He'll come back, Harry said. But he wasn't sure he believed it. What if he doesn't? Hermione whispered. What if we've lost him? Harry pulled her close. Then we continue without him. Together. Just the 2 of us. Hermione asked. Just the 2 of us, Harry confirmed. We've always been strongest together anyway. Hermione looked up at him. Her eyes were red, her face blotchy from crying. But there was steel in her expression. Determination. You're right. We can do this. We will do this. Together, Harry said. Together, Hermione agreed. They sealed the promise with a kiss. And despite everything, despite Ron leaving, despite the impossible task ahead, Harry felt hope. Because he had Hermione. And she was all he needed. The next morning, they packed up Grimmauld Place. It was too dangerous to stay now that Ron knew the location. They hit the road again. Just the 2 of them. Camping in forests. Moving constantly. Always searching. The Horcruxes weighed them down. Literally and figuratively. But they kept going. Kept fighting. Because giving up wasn't an option. One night in early November, they camped on a hillside overlooking a small village. They sat by their campfire. Hermione leaning against Harry. The stars were brilliant overhead. Do you ever think about after? Hermione asked softly. After we win. Sometimes, Harry admitted. Do you? All the time, Hermione said. I think about us having a house somewhere. Somewhere quiet and safe. I think about waking up next to you every morning. About building a life together. That sounds perfect, Harry said. His throat was tight with emotion. It does, doesn't it? Hermione said. Something worth fighting for. Everything worth fighting for, Harry corrected. Hermione turned in his arms. Kissed him deeply. Promise me we'll have that. Promise me we'll survive this. Harry wanted to promise. Wanted to guarantee their future. But he'd learned that some promises couldn't be kept. I promise I'll do everything I can to make that happen. That's enough, Hermione said. That's all I can ask. They made love under the stars that night. Desperate and passionate and full of unspoken fears. Afterward, they lay wrapped in blankets. Hermione's head on Harry's chest. His arms around her. I love you, Harry whispered into the darkness. I love you too, Hermione replied. More than anything. And as they drifted off to sleep, Harry held onto that love. Let it anchor him. Because in a world of darkness and death and impossible odds, love was the one thing Voldemort couldn't destroy. It was their greatest weapon. Their greatest strength. And it would have to be enough. December brought snow and a new kind of desperation. Harry and Hermione had been on the run for 6 months now. 6 months of constant movement. 6 months of failure. They had 2 Horcruxes and no way to destroy them. Every lead they followed turned into a dead end. Every plan fell apart. The cold was the worst part. Their tense warming charms barely kept the frost at bay. Hermione had lost weight. Her clothes hung loose on her frame. Dark circles shadowed her eyes. Harry knew he looked no better. They were running out of food. Running out of hope. We need to try something different, Hermione said one morning. They were camped in a forest somewhere in Scotland. Snow covered everything. Made the world feel muffled. Dead. Like what? Harry asked. He was trying to start a fire with wet wood. It wasn't going well. The sword of Gryffindor, Hermione said. It's impregnated with basilisk venom. It could destroy the Horcruxes. Harry looked up. Where is it? I don't know, Hermione admitted. Snape had it at Hogwarts. But who knows where it is now? So another dead end, Harry said bitterly. Not necessarily, Hermione argued. If we can figure out where Snape would hide something important. Something valuable to Dumbledore. Harry wanted to snap at her. To say that Snape was a murderer who didn't care about Dumbledore or anything else. But he held his tongue. Fighting wouldn't help anything. They spent the next week researching. Hermione had brought dozens of books. She pored over them constantly. Looking for any mention of the sword. Any clue to its location. Harry kept watch. Practiced defensive spells. Tried not to think about how hungry he was. How cold. How utterly hopeless their situation seemed. One night, Harry woke to find Hermione's sleeping bag empty. Panic seized him. He grabbed his wand and rushed outside. Found her standing at the edge of their camp. Staring into the darkness. Hermione. What's wrong? I heard something, she whispered. Movement. In the trees. Harry listened. There. A branch snapping. Footsteps crunching through snow. Someone was coming. Get behind me, Harry commanded. But before Hermione could move, a figure emerged from the trees. Red hair. Freckled face. Looking thinner and more haggard than Harry remembered. Ron, Hermione breathed. Ron stood there. His expression uncertain. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have left. I was an idiot. The silence stretched. Harry didn't know what to feel. Relief. Anger. Both. How did you find us? Hermione asked. Her voice was carefully neutral. Ron pulled something from his pocket. A small device that glowed faintly. Deluminator. Dumbledore left it to me. I heard your voices. Coming from it. And it led me here. You've been gone for 2 months, Harry said. His voice was hard. I know, Ron said. I tried to come back right away. But I couldn't find you. I've been searching everywhere. Why should we believe you? Hermione asked. Ron flinched. Because I'm telling the truth. Because I was wrong to leave. Because you're my best friends and I'm an idiot who let a dark object mess with my head. Harry wanted to stay angry. Wanted to make Ron suffer the way they'd suffered. But he was too tired. Too worn down. And the truth was, he'd missed his best friend. Do you believe in this? Harry asked. Really believe? Because if you're just going to leave again. I won't, Ron interrupted. I swear. Harry. I'm in this until the end. No matter what. Harry looked at Hermione. She was studying Ron, her expression unreadable. Finally, she nodded. Okay. But if you ever, abandon us like that again, I will hex you into next week. Fair, Ron agreed. The tension didn't disappear overnight. But having Ron back made things better. He brought news from the outside world. Death Eaters were hunting Muggle-borns. The Ministry had fallen completely. Voldemort's control was absolute. But there was also resistance. Students at Hogwarts were fighting back. The Order was still operating. More importantly, Ron brought food. Real food that he'd managed to steal or scavenge. They had their first full meal in weeks. As they ate, Ron told them how he'd left. How the locket had twisted everything. Made him jealous and angry and convinced that Harry and Hermione didn't need him. I'm sorry, he said again. For everything I said. Everything I thought. The locket affects all of us, Hermione said. We should have been more careful about who wore it. We're not wearing it anymore, Harry said firmly. It stays in the bag. Under every protection charm we can think of. Ron nodded. Good plan. That night, after Ron had gone to sleep, Harry and Hermione lay together in their sleeping bag. Are you okay? Harry asked quietly. With him being back, I think so, Hermione said. I'm still angry. But, I missed him. Is that strange? No, Harry said. I missed him too. Even though I wanted to punch him. Hermione laughed softly. We're a mess. Aren't we? The best kind of mess, Harry said. He kissed her forehead. I love you. I love you too, Hermione replied. With Ron back, they fell into a new rhythm. The three of them took turns keeping watch. Researching. Planning. Ron's return had given them new energy. New hope. On Christmas Eve, they were camped near a small village. Ron had gone to scout for supplies. Harry and Hermione were alone in the tent. They'd been discussing strategy for hours. Going in circles. We're missing something, Hermione said in frustration. Some piece of the puzzle. Maybe we should focus on finding the other Horcruxes, Harry suggested. We know one is at Hogwarts. Something of Ravenclaws. And there's Nagini. But we can't destroy the ones we have, Hermione pointed out. What's the point of collecting more? Before Harry could answer, Ron burst into the tent. His face was flushed, his eyes bright with excitement. I found something. You need to see this. They followed him to the edge of the village. To a small pond. The water was frozen solid. But in the center, beneath the ice, something glowed. Silver and bright. Is that? Harry started. The sword of Gryffindor, Hermione finished. Her voice was odd. How did it get here? Harry asked. Does it matter? Ron said. It's here. We can destroy the Horcruxes. Harry stared at the sword. Something about this felt off. Too convenient. Too perfect. It could be a trap. Or it could be a miracle, Ron argued. Harry, we've been searching for months. And here it is. Right when we need it. Hermione was frowning, clearly thinking the same thing Harry was. But, we need that sword. We don't have another option. Harry nodded. Okay. But we're careful. Ron, you stay here with Hermione. I'll go get it. Why you? Ron protested. Because I'm the one who can summon it, Harry said. Dumbledore said the sword appears to a true Gryffindor in need. That's me. He approached the pond carefully. Wand drawn. The ice was thick. He'd need to break through. Harry cast a spell. The ice shattered, revealing dark water beneath. The sword was deeper than it looked. To reach it, Harry would need to dive. In freezing water. In December. This is insane, Hermione said. She'd followed him despite his instructions. Harry, you'll freeze. I'll be quick, Harry promised. He stripped off his outer layers. The locket still hung around his neck. He'd been wearing it. Stupid. But there was no time to remove it now. Harry took a deep breath. And the cold was shocking. Painful. It stole the air from his lungs. Made his muscles seize. But Harry forced himself deeper. Reached for the sword. His fingers closed around the hilt. And then, the locket tightened. The chain constricted around his throat. Choking him. Pulling him down. Harry panicked. Clawed at the chain. But it was cutting into his skin. He couldn't breathe. Couldn't think. The darkness was closing in. Then, hands grabbed him. Pulled him up. Harry broke the surface. Gasping and choking, Ron dragged him onto the bank. Hermione was there. Casting warming charms. Removing the locket. I've got it, Ron said. He held the sword. Triumphant. Harry lay on the frozen ground. Coughing up water. Shivering violently. Thanks, he managed. That's what friends do, Ron said. Once Harry could stand, they returned to the tent. Ron built up the fire while Hermione wrapped Harry in every blanket they had. He was still shaking, but alive. We destroy them tonight, Harry said. His teeth were chattering. Both of them. Right now. They placed the lockets on a flat stone. Ron held the sword. Should I just stab them? Wait, Hermione said. When you open them, they'll try to defend themselves. They'll say things. Show you things. You have to resist. What kind of things? Ron asked. Your worst fears, Harry said. Your deepest insecurities. Don't listen to them. Ron nodded. He raised the sword. Okay. Here goes. Harry spoke in Parseltongue, commanding the locket to open. It sprang apart, and immediately, smoke poured out, forming shapes, images, Harry and Hermione, but not as they really were. These versions were twisted, cruel. They were kissing, passionately, and then they turned to Ron. We don't need you, the fake Harry said. We never did. You're nothing, the fake Hermione added. Stupid, useless. Why would we want you around? Ron's face went white. His hand shook, but he didn't lower the sword. It's not real, Harry shouted. Ron, we need you. You know that. He's our best friend, Hermione added. We love him. This is a lie. Ron looked at them, at the real Harry and Hermione. Then back at the apparitions. You're right. It is a lie. He brought the sword down. Hard. It pierced both lockets. There was a scream, high and terrible. The smoke dissipated. The images vanished. And the lockets, shattered. For a moment, they just stood there, breathing hard. Then Hermione let out a whoop of joy. We did it. We actually did it. Ron was grinning. 2 down. Harry felt lighter than he had in months. The oppressive weight of the Horcruxes was gone. They'd actually accomplished something, made real progress. That night, they celebrated. Ron had managed to scrounge some butterbeer. They toasted their victory, talked and laughed like they used to. For a few hours, the war didn't matter. The danger didn't exist. They were just 3 friends. Together. Later, after Ron had fallen asleep, Harry and Hermione sat by the dying fire. Today was a good day, Hermione said. It was, Harry agreed. We're actually doing this. We're winning. We still have a long way to go, Hermione cautioned. 3 more Horcruxes, at least. I know, Harry said. But, for the first time, I actually believe we might succeed. Hermione leaned against him. We will succeed, because we're not giving up. Any of us. Harry kissed the top of her head. Together. Always, Hermione replied. The new year brought new determination. With 2 Horcruxes destroyed, they focused on identifying the remaining ones. Hufflepuff's cup was won. They were certain of that. Something of Ravenclaw's. Possibly the lost diadem. And Nagini. We need to get into Gringotts, Hermione said one evening. They were studying a map of Diagon Alley. I think the cup is there. In the Lestrange vault. That's insane, Ron said. Gringotts is impossible to break into. Nothing's impossible, Harry said. Just difficult. They spent weeks planning the heist. It would be their most dangerous mission yet. But they didn't have a choice. They needed that cup. In late January, they were ready. They'd captured a Death Eater during a skirmish. Used Polyjuice Potion to impersonate them. Hermione would be Bellatrix Lestrange. Ron and Harry would be her associates. The plan was risky. Insane. Probably suicidal. But it was all they had. The morning they left for Gringotts, Hermione pulled Harry aside. If something goes wrong, if we get separated, you keep going. You destroy the Horcruxes. Nothing's going to go wrong, Harry said. But if it does, then we face it together, Harry interrupted. I'm not losing you. Not now. Not ever. Hermione's eyes filled with tears. I love you. So much. I love you too, Harry said. He kissed her. Deep and desperate. Like it might be the last time. We're going to survive this. All of us. And then we're going to have that future you talked about. The house. The life. Everything. Promise. Hermione whispered. Harry couldn't promise. Not really. But, I promise I'll fight like hell to make it happen. That's enough, Hermione said. They took the Polyjuice Potion. Harry watched as Hermione transformed into Bellatrix. It was unsettling, seeing the face of Sirius's murderer. But knowing Hermione was underneath. How do I look? She asked in Bellatrix's voice. Terrifying, Ron said honestly. They apparated to Diagon Alley. The street was nearly deserted. Most shops were closed. The few people around looked scared. Defeated. This was Voldemort's world. And it was bleak. Gringotts stood tall and imposing. They approached the entrance. Hermione walking with Bellatrix's arrogant stride. The goblins at the door bowed. Clearly afraid. Inside, they made their way to the vaults. Everything was going smoothly. Too smoothly. Harry kept waiting for the trap to spring. It did. Just as they reached the Lestrange vault. A goblin noticed something was off. Raised the alarm. Suddenly, they were fighting for their lives. Get the cup, Harry shouted to Hermione. Ron and I will hold them off. Hermione darted into the vault. Emerged moments later with a golden cup. I've got it. But they were surrounded. Death Eaters had arrived. Goblins were closing in. There was no escape. Except, there was a dragon. Chained in the depths of Gringotts. Ancient and half-blind and furious. This is crazy, Ron said. It's all we've got, Harry replied. They freed the dragon, climbed onto its back, and rode it up, smashing through the bank, through the ceiling, into open air. The dragon flew, instinct driving it away from its prison. Harry clung to its neck. Hermione pressed against his back. Ron whooping with terrified laughter. Finally, over a lake, they jumped. Plunged into cold water. The dragon disappeared into the distance. Free at last, they dragged themselves onto the shore. Exhausted, battered, but alive, and they had the cup. 3 down, Hermione gasped. 2 to go, Harry added. They destroyed the cup that night. Used the sword. Watched as another piece of Voldemort's soul was obliterated. With each Horcrux destroyed, Harry felt the end drawing closer. Soon, there would be nothing left but the final confrontation. Him and Voldemort. One last battle. But first, they needed to find the diadem. And that meant returning to Hogwarts. To the place where everything had started. We go back, Harry said. We end this where it began. Ron and Hermione nodded. No hesitation. No fear. Just determination. They were ready. Ready to finish what they'd started. Ready to face whatever came next. Ready to win. Or die trying. And that is just the beginning of Harry's true destiny. If you want to see how far his power rises, or how the wizarding world reacts next, make sure you like this video and comment if you want part 2. And hey, if you're new here, don't forget to subscribe right now. Because I upload daily dark and powerful Harry Potter what-if stories. And trust me, the next one will be even more insane. This is Heaven Harry fanfic, and I'll see you in the next magical chapter. Until then, stay legendary.